Pursuant to MGL 7C30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by the Berkshire Edge, CTSB, and the town of Great Barrington. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So how we're going to run tonight, we're going to start with Article 1, the citizens petition, Article 1, and we'll have a presentation no more than 10 minutes, then we'll ask questions. We then will do Article 4, citizens petition, 10 minutes, then we'll do questions. And then we'll have town staff come up to answer questions for Article 2 and 3. We've already discussed that at length, so now it's mostly questions. So we'll start with Article 1.
Good afternoon, Peter Most, East Mountain Road. For Article 1, as you may know, there are a number of different interest groups that were seeking additional appropriations because Prop 2.5 override vote did not occur. And I'm not sure that there is someone from each of the groups here, but there's someone from at least several of the groups here to speak about why their particular group should have a recommendation from the Select Board and Finance Committee with respect to the appropriation.
They can speak. You have total of 10 minutes. So
I think why don't you first yourself first?
no, it's no one on mine.
Hello, everyone. Erica Jaffe, Kirk Street in Housatonic. I'm the board chair of Berkshire South. First off, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of our citizens petition and request for funding this evening. I could probably go on for about 30 minutes listing all the reasons, large and small, why lifeguards are a need to have and not a nice to have at Lake Mansfield, but I know we have a lot to get through. So instead, I'll just list a few facts for your consideration. 1, Berkshire South has run the lifeguarding program at Lake Mansfield for the past 20 years without any major incidents or drownings. It's something we're very proud of, the chance to show up for our community and allow people to safely enjoy the lake. This would have been our 21st summer. 2, these 0 incidents are not because there is no risk at the lake. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Our safety record is due to the careful, proactive, precautionary measures and rapid response of our impeccably trained lifeguards. 3, we know that when waterfronts are unguarded, people drown. And we have the unfortunate and devastating data to back that up. Last summer alone, we saw 1 death at Beckett Quarry and another at Lake Buell, plus 2 more incidents in the summer of 2024. The one common factor, no one was on duty to save them. And 4, the people have already spoken and voted to fund the lifeguards. They view it as a service worth paying for. We've heard a lot about the need to reduce spending and protect the town over these last few weeks as these difficult budget conversations have gone on. I know that your job is not easy and there's a lot to wrestle with, but I ask you all to consider, what is the cost of a life lost? What does it look like to live in a town that did nothing to prevent that loss? Because this summer, if that does not happen on Berkshire South's watch, this will be on your watch. Thank you, and please we request that you fund the lifeguards.
Next, we'd like to discuss with you the co-responder program.
Hi, everybody. Adam Berlato, interim police chief. Just real briefly, again, the co-responder program, that is our mental health clinician. She's embedded with us. She has office space in our department, and she also responds to calls with us out on the street. Can't say enough about the service that is provided. Again, mental health, addiction needs. She's worked with the health department in regards to some housing issues with some elderly folks. Again, I'll keep it really short. In today's day and age where the world's gone mad, I think we just definitely need to have our mental health clinician with us. Let's do parking real quick. It's a very small number. It's $20,000. It brought in 26,000 last calendar year. Of the 26, the town kept 23. 3,000 went to the vendor. Thank you.
Next, we'd like to discuss the support for the veterans leases.
I guess these old guys are a little intimidated, so I'll stand up there for them. Jim Bailey, Housatonic. I'm actually the post commander of Housatonic Post 8183 VFW Post in Housatonic. What the veterans do for the community and what we receive from the community is very important. Our goal as the VFW is to help veterans, period. We're not a bar. That's not our goal. That's not our job. We are a support group for veterans. There's a big gap between what Tom Beasley, our VSO, can do for our community and what we do. We fill that gap. Tom does an extraordinary job. He has his hands full. So we pick up and we provide support for the families, the veterans, and everybody else associated with the veterans. We've provided everything from wheelchair ramps to windows and fuel assistance. Let's face it, bureaucracy often gets in the way of money being distributed to veterans. 99 million in the state of Massachusetts has gone to veterans. That's tiny compared to what other organizations get. We fill that gap with the support of our community. These men and women have sacrificed more than I can stand up here and say. So we're just asking for the same support from you that our veterans once provided and continue to provide. Because I'll tell you, since 1994, when I got out of the service, I was asked to participate as an honor guard. I've been doing that ever since. Every funeral, every ceremony I can be at, I'm at. But it doesn't end there. We support each other. And a lot of times it takes a veteran to understand a veteran. And that's where we come in. Where the funding stops, that's where we come in. It's not just a club. We don't say no to somebody who's not a member when we bury them. We're out there when it's minus 25 in wind chill to bury our last of our World War II veterans. We do that out of the sacrifice for these men and women that deserve our help and our support. Thank you.
I just want to ask, you have any questions that you want to ask about the VFW?
We'll take questions at the end. Let
Okay.
the presentation go first so that
All right,
we can comment.
Steve, Ananda Payne from Railroad Street Youth Project is here to discuss the skate park moment.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Eric Brune. I'm the current board president of the Railroad Street Youth Project. Want to thank you each for all the support you've given to the Railroad Street Youth Project, both in this budget process and in the past. The skateboard monitor is more than what it sounds. The skateboard park is, you know, in addition to Lake Mansfield, one of the few public recreational facilities that are available in a sort of a self-guiding way. And it's also when we have a person there working with the kids who are skateboarding, some of you used to be skateboarders, there's a way in which we can have interaction with them to make sure there's safety, that they're constructive activities. And there's also a way in which the Railroad Street Youth Project can work with young people in ways that often go well beyond skateboarding and beyond the summer. It is an entry point, especially for young men and boys. And it serves a very, very important role for the town. at this, when there's no organized activity for young people, most especially young people who are not going away to camp or anything like that. It serves a niche part of the community at a vulnerable times in their life. So totally recognize the challenges you all confront, and appreciate and respect the ways in which you've dealt with this request in the past years and this year and in this difficult time. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Amanda, you are up to you, but Amanda has been unmuted.
Do you want to ask Amanda if she has anything to add?
Amanda, do you want to add anything?
Sure. I just wanted to reiterate our thanks. The select board and the finance committee have been instrumental in advocating for supporting this space for teens and young people and even littles at the skate park. I want to thank you for making sure that we were recommended for funding to the town meeting, and thank the community for voting for it at town meeting. And reiterate what Eric said, that we really understand that you're facing an impossible set of priorities. And I was always talking with Liz, and I just said to her, what I really feel is true, that we're all on one team to support young people in our community. And I appreciate you being on our team, whatever decisions you need to make on behalf of the town.
Thanks, Amanda.
I don't know if anyone is here on behalf of the appropriation for the HWW legal fees, but otherwise I believe
You're all set.
We're all set.
Is there any more time, Steve, or?
Yeah, there's 2 more minutes.
Yeah. Quickly say something. Paul Story,
Yep.
retired police chief. As people who know me, I'm really, really passionate about the co-responder program. And I appreciated the support going into this budget season. I understand it, but beyond the service that it brings to the community, I also want to consider the service that it brings in-house to our police department. It's an organic way to show support, to have a built-in resource for critical incident debriefs for the young officers who experience some pretty traumatic calls that we go on. So for the first responders, that's a part that we don't often think about, that the co-responder brings support to, which is essential to make sure that our first responders have a long, healthy career. So just consider that too. Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have 2 more minutes for the veterans?
You can have another minute for the veterans. Go right ahead.
I'd like to add to what, to the VFW here in Great Barrington. We give away a lot of fundraisers, and we also give our halls and our grounds to the Friends of Moe's. Pitch and golf tournaments, the Kiwanis Club, Southern Berkshire Ham Rolls. Great Barrington Fire Department Ham Rolls. Old Yankee Street Cars. All this is at no charge at all to these vendors. The Sound of Music, that's another no charge that we give to the town. I don't know if you'll have people go down there, but they do give a great following to bands that I don't go to, but young people do. But so that's what I have to add to this. Training Center for Educational Classes. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, for Housatonic, any chance?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Michael Casey, Kirk Street, Housatonic, 21-year commander in Housatonic. Want to make it very clear, because I've gone through this whole process over the years. The state is required for each town to provide a meeting place for veterans. So it was agreed upon that we would do that, and that our facility would be that particular facility. So we quickly divided 2 things. We have what we call the facility, which you pay for, which is the operational costs, insurance, lights, electricity, those type of things, and the repairs of the building. These other funds that we get, that we raise ourselves, we turn that back into the community. They almost balance themselves out. There's about $11,500 that comes in from the town, to maintain the facility. I'm certain that in time, talking about volunteer time and money that we've earned through other projects, we put out somewhere around $10,000 to $20,000 back in the forms of scholarships and things like that. So it's not like town money's coming in to pay for our programs. It's coming in to pay for that little bit. Our requirements will not change. We will still need a facility, so if you do away with it, we're gonna come back to you to ask for facility. That facility needs to be able to have a place to meet upwards towards 50 people, store upwards towards 20 weapons, all of our honor guard equipment, all the other equipment that we use, and we have to have 24-hour access to it. So if we have to get rid of the building, we'll do that, but we're coming right back in to say, all right, where are you gonna put us to be able to do that? So I wanna make that very clear. There are two essential things going on here. One is that you provide a place for us to meet, and we take care of this other thing that we give back to the town. Servicemen has always been service before self, and it's no more said than I've seen in this particular town. Walk any of these cemeteries, Eric, I remember your speech when you talked about those flags flying there, and you see what has been contributed by the town of Great Barrington. I come from a family that from World War I, well, actually, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and Grenada. So we understand what it takes for this town to put forward, but I want to make it very clear what we're actually asking for, the facility to be able to meet it. All this other stuff is something that we provide, that we earn on our own. Thank you.
Thank you. So where we're gonna go now is either comments or questions from both boards. I'm gonna start out just because I just want to clear up something. I appreciate everyone who spoke, and everyone knows, and I'll speak for myself as everyone else is, you go through the lifeguards and the skate park, I've supported that from the beginning. Literally, being on the Parks Department. The co-responder program, I think, is essential. Parking enforcement, we can talk about. I think it's important to have, but I don't think it's in the same category. VFW and the veterans, I've always stood up for the veterans from the beginning, so that has nothing to do with it. What we haven't talked about tonight, which is rather interesting, which is the real topic, is how low do we want free cash to go? And realize it will not raise our taxes if we use free cash this year, but it will raise our taxes next year because we won't have free cash to use next year. So I think that's a much more important issue. There's nothing, every one of these groups have a reason to want to be supported. They're really an instrumental part of our town. But the question really becomes, how much free cash do we use? And how are we gonna make up for it next year when we don't have free cash? Again, we're trying to weed ourselves off of free cash, but we haven't done that yet. So that to me is the big issue. So raise your hand, Michelle, go first.
I know we were trying to wean ourselves off free cash, but we're not doing it in 1 year. That conflict has come up.
Right.
So it's gotta be a process, like a diet, you know,
Yep.
that sort of thing. I first want to say, the co-responder program, former Chief Story, I'm glad you brought that up, that the co-responder also supports the officers that are there. That was one of my questions, whether, we know of the importance of a co-responder for the citizens in crisis, but officers go in crisis as well. And so I think that was you answered my question, just then. The skateboard park, I have no issue with that. When I was a kid, it used to be in the winter, the skating rink or the basketball court. That's where we used to go if we were lucky enough to get to Great Barrington and do it. However, a couple weeks ago, my husband and I were driving through Main Street where we're teenagers skateboarding on the ramp of the Mason Library. So we were, my husband and I, because we have that beautiful statue of Du Bois there. And these were 3 kids skateboarding right on the ramp, and here we have the skateboard. So I expect some motion of that skateboard park to our teens, like don't do it in the, why do it at the library? Come to the skateboard park and do it as well. At some point, I just want to refresh my memory on the Housatonic water legal fees, if anybody can say anything.
Anytime you want, we'll answer the questions.
Yeah, well, the question is it pertaining to the purchase? Or
Liz, do you wanna
I
speak on
just want
that,
detail on
or
it.
do you want me to?
We've gone through so much
It is pertaining to the pricing of it and ultimately the possible purchase.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that answers, that's fine.
Go ahead.
So I think the, all of these programs, and support are quite important. And I see them, and I really can't pick one that I cannot support, like I support all of them. And, it really comes down to the financial picture, like Steve was saying. But this year, I think this year we do have the funds to be able to do this, but then the problem is, what about next year, what about the future? And this is something that I think we all need to work together. Of course, the boards have to work together, the town has to work together. We all have to work together to make sure we're a financially stable town that also provides the services that we need. So while we certainly have the funds this year, we're gonna have to start thinking really tough questions in the future, but I think that's something we can work on over a year. And this year, I plan to recommend supporting these various programs because I do really understand how essential each of these programs are. We need to support the veterans. We need to have the lifeguards. The skate park, this provides important programs for the youth, and so on and so forth. And the correspondent program, this is essential. These are essential things. And I don't think now's the time to take these things away and then say, okay, let's solve the financial thing. No, let's do these things that we need, that are citizen support. I respect the fact that 250 or so people signed this petition. That's a sizable chunk of the people that come to these town meetings. That 250, in fact, is more people that signed a petition that came to our last town meeting, like round one, round two, only about 100. So I think we need to respect that. That's a starting point. And then after that, we can have the tough financial questions about how to balance the books. That said, I have one question. This is about the correspondent program, and this is more just to understand the program itself. In the past, my understanding was we had a shared correspondent service with other towns. Now it's just Great Barrington. I just wanted to get a sense of when it was reintroduced, how it became, well, why not a shared program? Why is it just, only Great Barrington? This is more like a question how the program goes.
Yep, so it was actually never really a shared program. The original program started probably 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
With Ivy. Again, unsecured funding, we ended up losing that. We got it back again, most recently with contracting through CSO. Currently it's exclusive to the town of Great Barrington. Under mutual aid, she does go to other towns when needed. I would definitely like to explore the regional structure. I think that's probably the future of the program, especially trying to build it out. But as I am here for you today, and again, exclusively just Great Barrington.
Yeah, I think when we originally got the grant that I funded for, just under 2 years. That's when Julie came on board. The long-term vision that I think we had at that point was to reach out and regionalize the program. When I was in Adam's role, I did reach out to some of the communities. Sheffield expressed interest, Monterey, New Marlboro, Monterey a little bit to help subsidize it. So I think vision-wise in the future, if you're looking at budgetary, that's a way that we could look at to make that program be more functional, is to share the cost and bring them on board with some type of mutual agreement.
And those same unofficial conversations that, Paul had during his time are still occurring right now with me.
Yeah, go ahead. Gentlemen, sorry to make you sit down and then stand up, but I wanted to ask another question about the correspondent program, so sorry about that.
No worries.
But I hear why it's important. I would be interested if you're able to share either any data about the type of calls that has mitigated something more serious happening. Is there any kind of data in the past couple of years that our police department has gathered about this program? Or could you at least provide some anecdotes about real significant impacts that it's had?
Sure, this is probably something I can maybe provide to the town manager that she can distribute. I don't have anything right now in front of me, but it's data driven, especially when we look for grants. All the grants are data driven. So because we're doing that work as well behind the scenes, while we're here asking for it up front, I do have that just now with me tonight.
And in addition to that, one more question. Beyond the support of the co-responder for the officers of the department, can I just confirm that mental health care is a part of the insurance that's provided to our officers and other town employees?
Yes, it is. Yes, there's a employee assistance program that's available to all the employees. Looking at from that perspective, the way that law enforcement is trained, law enforcement for over 30 years, we're trained to manage our feelings, manage our emotions, to go in there and identify what the issue is and, be in control of ourselves. It's hard, I can talk personal experience to release that inner stuff that you deal with. So having that person in-house is really, really helpful because you develop that relationship with the co-responder to naturally discuss stuff that may be troubling me without asking for help. And it's to try to change that mindset that asking for help is not a weakness. It's not a weakness in an officer. It's actually a strength if you can identify it before it becomes a problem. And that's where it's essential in my view. Additionally, with a young officer, young group that we have, I think there's 9 currently with 3 years experience or less. It's key to watch her and her Julie and her training and how her professionalism, what she's trained to do, how she manages people in crisis, and teach them so they can look by like mirroring. If they can see, okay, this is how she does, how she de-escalated that situation. So not only is she support for them, she's actually teaching them how to manage these critical incidents and de-escalate them so we don't, escalate them and turn into something that's, terrible. So there's a lot of factors to it that are very, very beneficial.
I'll ask.
Thank you.
So I have just a few questions, but one for you. When you first came to us, chief, you talked about grants that may be available, and as you always are, you were optimistic. Are there any grants that are available for this that would take the burden off the town?
Yes, my optimism isn't as strong as it once was.
Okay. And you've only been on the interim job for a
I
few
know,
months.
I don't look bad at 25 years old right now, but yes, there is a grant we are pursuing very actively. Unfortunately, it's originally a pool of $19 million at the state level that was cut to 4. So a $15 million cut from the governor's budget. I know the House is working to restore that, but that's where that one kind of stands. So unfortunately, with that kind of reduction at the state budget, that's where my optimism is went.
Fair enough. Question for life.
I had a question.
You got a question? Okay, while they're there. Go right ahead.
So the trauma that you encounter on, hopefully not day to day, but certainly there are some that are worse. Does your co-responder, can they reach out to because the same trauma is with the people that have to pick up these bodies or, is there any kind of reciprocal help from a co-responder to, say, the ambulance squad?
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, all first responders, ambulance,
First
fire, EMS, whatever, that's.
So she can help on all of those as well.
She can get it done first, and you can send her anywhere.
Thank you.
So I have a question for Berkshire South, for lifeguards. Previously, we've always struggled getting lifeguards when the season started. Assuming, let's say this passes, and I realize some of this money, which people may not realize, is actually for next season too.
Right.
Because our seasons don't go exactly with swimming season.
Yes, we do Memorial Day to July 1st, we
Right.
have a little
Yeah.
buffer.
So let's say this passes and we're ready to go. Do you have lifeguards that actually do this?
We are cautiously optimistic that we will be able to, as you all remember, 2 years ago, we were put in sort of a situation to
Yes.
scramble. We are actively running certification programs. We typically, in a normal year, would have everybody trained and certified, March and April are the times we do this so that we're ready to go May 31st. Without that funding, we are not able to do that, and we had to let our lifeguards go. We believe we can get them back. We're working through some changes in our aquatic program, but similar to 2 years ago, when with 3 days notice, we were on the job. We're committed to doing the same and doing everything we can to get that program up and running so that we can safely staff the lake for July.
And so just to clarify, did you have funding from last year for this year's June?
For this year's, do we have funding from that? No. The way it's structured, we had a little bit of like a hiccup, so it changed slightly, but the way it was structured for this year was that there was an intermediary little amount of money that would have been to staff this part, that I can follow up with exactly where the funding is coming from. Sorry, Janice. been-
I mean, I'm getting
Yeah,
into the
no,
weeds, obviously,
But Phil, so what happens is, we can't use money from other fiscal years to fund this, so the
Right.
funding ends June 30th and then starts July 1st.
So it's,
They were not going to hire lifeguards
Right.
for 3 weeks or a month.
right, without knowing that funding is coming,
I
with
agree.
the uncertainty of this, we were not.
I
able to
fully
decide.
appreciate that, but I thought that you were implying that you have the funding from fiscal 26 includes an amount allocated for the period through June 30th this year.
There is,
So you have some amount of money.
Yes, it's roughly, I believe, $5,500. I can confirm.
but that drops to,
in full.
first, yeah, first of all, the town meeting's June 29th. It drops to free cash when it's not spent.
Sure.
So, and in Berkshire South, and rightfully so, are not gonna hire a bunch of college age students and let them go on July 1st.
Okay, that being said, I'm getting into the weeds there. I fully appreciate the complexity of actually getting trained kids to do this. I fully appreciate that.
And our kids can't really be the ones staffing Lake Mansfield. We need to have one senior guard in addition to that. because-
Okay, bad choice of words.
But no,
I hear it.
just so you know, but yeah, and a lot of money does go towards the certification programs that get people ready to lifeguard.
Okay, I got you. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
That's
Yeah.
probably the best thing to do.
I'm sorry.
So, yeah, I guess just general statement on Article 1 is,
Oh, that looks great, Dad.
Amanda. Your mic is on.
Ah.
I think, in general, all these things I've supported, since I've been here, every single one down this list. The hard decision we have here is, and I know if we look at this one sheet here, it looks like we have some free cash, and I understand that. In the last couple of years, our budget meetings have been difficult. Not this past one, the one before was very difficult. And at that year, we had to use some GE funding, one-time GE funding of, if I'm not mistaken, $1.5 million. And Ally and everybody cautioned us on how much harder next year is gonna be. And we had a little under $1 million, I think, saved in free cash at the end of that season. Now, if we're talking of, fulfilling all these, which it's already been made clear that we can't, we're gonna have $0 in our bank account. And, unfortunately, in my perspective, the override got voted down. So that's a clear sign that no one, it was very clear that the folks didn't want their taxes to get raised up. And it means a lot of things that I really support can't happen. And if they happen this year, then it's gonna be a lot of really horrible decisions next year. I know that, we're hoping on a lot of growth in town. We're hoping on a lot of things, so. It's a hard decision. I would love to fund all these. I would love to fund just about everything on the sheet here. But at a certain point, we were asked to make difficult decisions and asked to we had to put some stop to funding, so. Which ones are those? Is this, I thought at town meeting it was good. We had it set up as a la carte kind of menu is what I was thinking of it, and it all went through. And I thought I felt momentum, but at the ballot box, which there was a lot more than 250 people voted against an override. So I'm in a hard position, and the veterans, Mike Casey, anytime he asks me, I'm gonna jump up and do whatever he asks. And the skate park, I used to be there, all these things, but at a certain point, it's not just a feel-good thing. It's hard decisions that need to be made. We have bills that need to be paid. So I'm on a little bit of a rant here, but it's just not that easy to be like, yes, I do believe this. let's just fund everything and write us down to 20 cents left in free cash. So it's a hard decisions for me, so.
Okay, go ahead, Sean. Yeah, please.
On the co-responder, refresh my memory on that, independent contractor or town employee?
Independent contractor.
Independent contractor, I don't think. And to kind of add on to what Rayo said, if this is how I feel personally, is that if this is passed, the next day, all these organizations have to start figuring out where they're going to raise money. And talking about grants, I think what the town has to do when a grant is received, this, when I used to do grants, we would say, okay, the grant's gonna end in 2 years. Can the entity pick up the bulk, the cost, or does the program go away? If it's going to go away, is it worth starting out to begin with? I think there's an attitude that the taxpayers will always up the tab. And that's not going to be the case. But I think this is the year, as Rayo said, to tighten our belts, to roll up our sleeves and really look at everything. And to be honest, some of these bills that we're paying, they're not the taxpayers' fault. And so this may be the year of living dangerously, where we are going to do this, but then not just people around the table here are accountable, but the heads of these organizations are accountable as well. You know, I have a personal lean to the veterans. As I've stated before, my father was a World War II vet, my brother a Vietnam, and they've already sacrificed. Anybody who gives up years of their life to protect me, similar to the fire, to police, ambulance, anything else. But we're all going to need to pitch in. And so when we start the budget process in, what is it, February? It's been so long.
Might be November this year, who knows?
You know, we talk about accountability, but we're all going to be accountable.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Michelle. So I guess the concern I have is if we do bring it down to zero, live dangerously. This year we saw insurance go up 8%, school budget 7.5%, ambulance squad 30-something%. That just the price of everything increasing, and then, I know the price of oil dropped today, but it could skyrocket again tomorrow. So I just worry about just driving it all the way down and then not only making up the suggested million or $500,000, whatever is going to be left in there, depending on how all this goes, on top of future costs. That's the big concern. So,
yeah, just to kind of echo, I think it's a great conversation, echo what Eric's been saying. And I real quick gonna go through this list because I truly think like this is a list of things that I started getting into town government because these are the things that I want to support. I think these are the kind of things that a town should have. Lifeguards, Lake Mansfield is one of our most beautiful natural resources. And if it's not safe to use, what's the point of all the money that we just put into it? And we've seen, as you mentioned, terrible tragedies can happen in these swimming locations, and like we need to be taking care of our children. In the same through line of thinking, skate park monitor. I grew up getting to go to Railroad Street Youth Project. I know the value of these programs. And of actually giving kids something to do, so then, they're not being dealt with by our police department. As Eric can probably attest to, because he grew up a little before me, before Road Street Youth Project existed, and these kind of programs were here to help keep that kind of thing from happening. I live in Housatonic. I have been working as a select board member to try to purchase Housatonic Waterworks. I think it's the thing to do for the people of the town to make sure that we have clean, reliable water for the people of Housatonic. I'm even going to go and talk about the parking enforcement officer, despite the fact that I'm someone who has to move my car every day because I work in downtown, but it makes us money. Like, it's a good thing to invest in. I think the co-responder should be like the future of policing, and it would keep something like the tragedy we saw in Hinsdale from happening here, as well as just being a good resource there for the mental health of our officers. And then the veterans have done so much for us, the least we can do is give them a space to come together and just continue. Like, this is just, we shouldn't be having this conversation. The fact that we are speaks to how miserable this situation is. Like, and so I fully believe in all of these things, but to Eric's point, it's the question is, what's our strategy for the next thing, for Article 2? We don't have a plan. Like, these two groups are responsible for the financial stability of this town, for keeping it from going off a cliff. If we don't have a plan for the liability that the next articles are addressing, then we're not gonna be able to pay for any of this. So that's really where we have to kind of focus on the strategy.
Thanks.
So we obviously need to talk about Article 2, because that drives a lot of this, but let's assume we can't change any of Article 2, we need that money. We have to make some tough choices. A couple of things I would say is lifeguards. I was definitely agree with what Ms. Jaffe said. We need to find a way to charge user fees at Lake Mansfield going forward, but I certainly appreciate the need for lifeguards. Houstonic water legal fees. Frankly, I've spent a lot of time on this issue. I guess I have two things. One is I see that the town in aggregate is really very much conflicted on anything about buying Houstonic water. That being said, I think we have a public court filing out there. We're trying to get clarification on the price we would have to pay for the company based upon our option in the 100-year-old charter. I think that unfortunately is going to be in the slow lane, and we, even if we had this money, we may not be able to spend it for the next year because things go so slowly in that process. So I would probably support cutting that off the list for this year. At the same time, I think we have a great.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? We don't have that money. We will not have a filing. We
Okay,
need that
well,
money
the filing, okay, well.
Yeah, the responses to filing, you're just wrong on that.
Okay, well, I've spent a lot of time on this topic. I don't really, I feel strongly that we should be pursuing it, but we can't do everything. Okay, we have to make some decisions here. So unless we're able to magically reduce Article 2, then we have to make some decisions on this list and on the ambulance number. So I would support removing the legal fees for Houstonic water and as essentially and by the same time requesting state aid to fill that gap. I think it's pretty reasonable to ask them to support us in that regard. I think we can get away without the parking enforcement officer. So that's the way I would trim that list.
So I completely agree with Eric that free cash is important. And in fact, when I ran for this office, that was like one of my headline things I put in the statement, like we need protective free cash, we need something to 817,000 and 1.14 million. And I was probably one of the few people that wrote on in the Edge, Eileen's newsletter and the Eagle, supporting, and almost nobody else wrote that publicly. And so that's because I truly understand the importance of free cash. And I've been thinking about this quite a lot. And later on as the meeting progresses, I'll make more of I'll say more about how I would recommend we might do this. Well, my opinion, of course, we can. I think we're all basically agreeing on the importance of free cash. That's the question is how to get there. And such. So the other thing that I guess I want to say is that we do need a long-term plan. And I think, we are crafting towards a long-term plan, like that is completely essential. But a long-term plan is something that, it's something that, of course, the boards and the town manager and their staff, that they initiate a long-term plan, but it's something that requires the buy-in of the citizens, of concerned citizens as well. And kind of a long-term plan that does not have buy-in. And here we have all these organizations that have created a coalition to advocate these things, working with each other, because they see that we need these things. This seems like the group that could help with the buy-in, with the long-term plan that we as a community has to come together to get through this. So, so this year, I think, again, I said, I think we should respect what the voters, what petitioners, have said. I think it's important to fund these things, and let us create a long-term plan together that we can all buy in.
So I'm gonna ask you a couple of things. We're gonna go Article 1, 4, 2, and then we'll talk about this. Let's stick to the articles we're talking about. And let's try not to repeat ourselves because we're gonna be here all night. So we know where people are. So do we have any other questions on these 7?
Are you gonna take a vote?
Not till the end.
Okay, I just have a question if you're gonna take a vote.
Okay, we will take a vote at the end for recommendation.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, come on up.
Jim Bailey, still in Houston. I haven't heard any amount of money left over from this year's budget. Is there a figure of what's being rolled over as of July 1?
We went through we'll go through that. Ally, do you have the exact figure? I don't have it in front of me, or Liz.
Clarification, so Jim, are you talking about the general operating budget and then whatever's remaining at the end of the fiscal year?
Will be rolled over to.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
Determined until when free cash is certified, so we won't know, and our free cash this past year wasn't certified until January. Okay, so we're aiming to get that finalized and submitted to DOR earlier this year, so we have a better sense of where we are. We're aiming for hopefully November this year, so we can then have a better discussion and prep for the policies that they've been talking about, the board is talking about, but I don't have that number and we won't.
But it is safe to say that there will be some general operating budget.
That is typical.
Yeah.
That is typical.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Thank you.
And the other part of that is, and I don't know if this is what you're referring to, we can't spend it until it's certified.
No, I understand that.
I figured you did. Okay, are we done with Article 1?
Are you gonna get public comment on articles or?
Not at the end, we'll take it one before we vote. Let's go to Article 4, the ambulance squad.
Kevin Wall, Chief Southern Berkshire Ambulance. Back in November of last year, we presented to all the 6 towns that we cover for 911 ambulance service, our budget and the also corresponding assessments to the towns. We assessed Great Barrington $414,000 for the operating budget. And as you know, that was capped off by this board here at 327 and voted on a town meeting. So what we're seeking here is the remainder of Great Barrington's obligation for the 6-town budget that we presented of the 86,000 to you guys. As you know, Southern Berkshire Ambulance has been with you guys for over 50 years, providing service. With what I hear, everybody is very satisfied with the service. I understand that the town is cash poor, if you will. But this money is what is needed to allow us to continue providing the service that you have grown to expect. And any cut in that would jeopardize what we're providing for you. So with that being said, I would ask that you fund us fully at the 86,000 that we're requesting. Should I just stand up here, Steve, for questions?
Yeah, if you're done with your presentation, yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean, it's short and sweet, and I know you're gonna have questions, so.
I was under the impression, and this is good, I'm happy with this, that you guys wanted to make a full presentation for 10 minutes. If you don't, we'll let
I
questions
think
go.
everybody knows why we're here.
Yep, I agree and I
know you're
respect
gonna ask
that.
me questions, so.
Yeah, we're done.
I just want to know, do you have an update on a contract or
I was actually here today, working with Liz on the contract, and I'm optimistic that we're gonna have it done before the 29th. I don't know, Liz, you wanna speak to that?
Yes, we're set a goal that we'll have it ready, all the language except for the actual financial, portion of the contract ready by the 29th. So that is our objective.
And what time frame would that contract cover? Is it a multi-year contract?
3 years.
Other comments or questions?
I guess it's, I'll speak to it just for, since it's a topic I've discussed before, I guess. I look at this and I feel that, I've experienced fatigue from the large increases year over year. And I understand, like, we can't always control everything running a business, but I feel that, the first few years this was presented, it was like, this is what's happening, but at a certain point, we have to try to control cost and I just was at a certain point, like if we didn't start these conversations in a contract thing, I don't know that I feel that next year you wouldn't have come back with another 30 to 40% cost increase in the years after, so that's what I figured that we had to have a serious discussion and it's just it's unfeasible for us to be able to support those increases 4 or 5 years in a row. So that's.
We agree. And I know it's been said before, but the last 3 years, we've essentially been playing catch up. We're at the point now where we don't need to have those large increases, and we have agreed to cap them at 7.5% in the 3-year contract. So there is a sustainable amount at that point.
And then, and this goes just broadly about the budget, not targeting the ambulance squad or anything, but it's, if everything keeps going up 7.5%, 8% every year, there's no way we're going to be able to stay under 2.5%, right? Simple math. And it's just, I don't necessarily agree, 2.5% override was a great thing when it was probably done back in the day, but it's a hard reality that we have to face today, so.
No other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
At annual town meeting, an amount was already voted. And that was after, it was exhaustive discussion by the people around this table. It took public comment. Other places are asking for funding, period. The ambulance squad is asking for more. And this is tough. This is really tough. Like, we're talking about 7.5%. The sad truth is salaries aren't going up 7.5% every year. They're not. And so this falls on our taxpayers. I don't think there's one person around this table that doesn't value the ambulance squad. But after really beating the dead horse, we came up with the amount of money to bring before annual town meeting, and it was voted. And again, this is more, and you're asking for more. And
So to be clear, we're only asking for what we originally asked for.
right, but after discussion, we brought it forward to the voters and that sort of thing. And it's not gonna be there next year. It's just not. It's going to be a very lean budget next year. So that's what I'm struggling with, because we're in a situation of, robbing Peter to pay Paul right now. And we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for it. But keeping in mind, like I said, the people who are paying the bills, the taxpayers, their incomes aren't going up or anything. And I don't know who said it here, sometimes we have to make the tough decisions. Now, and this is going to be one of them. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, just remember, how many full-time employees and part-time employees do you currently have?
It's total 33 employees.
33, is it all full-time?
No, 25.
25. And when did the transition start from being the volunteer service to the
The complete transition was 2014.
when did it, when did just even the first paid positions,
Repeat that.
Sorry, I'm just kind of asking about the history of just the transition from volunteer service to.
So the complete transition happened in 2014.
Yeah.
Over the course of probably 7 or 8 years, they had some part-time employees, they had daytime employees. And then eventually it transitioned to pretty much a full-time paid service in 2014 with paramedics, which I didn't have before.
Right. And I guess, so during this transition, I'm just getting an idea of growth and scale, right? Like, is this the level that's gonna serve us, or do you see you having to grow even more over the next few years?
This is the level that will serve us well
Yeah,
for this foreseeable future. If we grow, it would be to be able to manage more stuff out of the hospital and stuff like that. This is what we need to sustain the 911 coverage.
no, I'm just trying to get, I mean, I totally. My dad rode as part of the volunteer service. My grandma was a precursor writing out on calls from the hospital. Like I have a long history with my family's history with SBA. I so deeply value what you do. And I hope you understand that this is not something I like to advocate for, and I think the majority of us do not like to
Well, I don't envy your position.
Yeah, no.
That's how I'll say that.
Like, are we allowed to use mild curses?
Smile versus, want to whisper it to me and I'll see if it's smile. Yes, you can use.
Okay, this sucks. Like.
That is, no, get the soap out.
I don't wanna offend any sensitive ears, but this sucks. So like, and like kind of Michelle was saying, like, it's like, we should not, you guys should have all the money you need to do what you need to do. You should be an essential service. A lot of that lives outside this room, like, unfortunately, but. No, I'm not really getting to a point here other than just voicing my frustration that I don't like to have to be in this relationship with you. I value you both so much. I wish we could give you all the support we could, but as you have seen, this sucks.
Yeah, go ahead. We discussed this a bit over the years, but is it still the case that Southern Berkshire Ambulance provides more of a paramedic function, which is a much higher skill level, as I understand, so it's the EMT. So your system provides more of a paramedic function relative to some of the ambulance teams that are supporting some of our neighboring towns. Is that still roughly accurate?
We're the only paramedic service south of Lee.
Okay.
New Marlboro, Otis, Sandusville, they have basic level services. So, yes, we are the only paramedic service.
Okay, so making the obvious point that if it was me, I'd want the paramedic and I value that service.
Yeah.
But is that in the course of all your difficult decisions about your budget, I mean, how much time have you spent, or what has been the theme of your thought process about how much paramedic services you're providing relative to the less expensive role of an EMT?
That's a tough question, Phil, because we have to keep a level of service 24/7 because you never know what the next call is going to be.
Right. Well, again, I clearly acknowledge that, but.
What you're asking is, should I have paramedics, how many hours of the day and not these hours because I don't get that?
No.
I think we have to have them 24/7 because you never know when the next call is gonna be a life or death situation.
But maybe to conclude on that, you're providing a higher level of service.
Mhm.
You're providing a more highly skilled, more highly certified or trained individual relative to some of our neighboring towns.
Right.
And that, I'm oversimplifying it, but that probably makes your service more expensive to maintain than some other.
100%.
All right, I just want to make sure, big picture, I'm understanding, but thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, pardon the directness of this question, but you had said that if the town were not to fund the additional $87,000 request, that we would not have all the services that we were accustomed to and that we do genuinely appreciate. Are you able to share what services would, not be able to be provided if the town didn't
The
provide?
goal would be to make up that shortfall with fundraising if we had to. But to answer your question, we would have to take a hard look at our budget towards the end of the year. To figure out whether or not we could fund the 3 ambulances we currently fund without this funding.
Okay.
Thank you.
No one else? Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Let's move on to question for Article 3 from the two boards. Liz and Ally will come up. We kind of started to beat this the last time, but I'm sure there's a lot of questions because the forensic audit had just become available that day and many of us did not have a chance to read it. So let's go as far as you want to go with questions on this. Go right, let them sit and go right ahead.
Are we gonna town council?
They are online.
Okay, now it's my, I have, I have first I have 4 questions and they're all for town council largely, and then I have some, questions for, Liz. So, I could say all 4 all together, or I can ask one at a time.
Let me find town council first.
Should be there, David.
Would that be him, do you think?
It might be. So,
Well, we got a hand up, so that's good.
Perfect.
Recording in progress.
Good evening.
Okay. Good. Go ahead, Ryan. Hi, David.
You want me to ask all 4
Okay.
at once, or go one at a time?
I don't know what they are, so you use your judgment. I don't know what they are, so you use your judgment.
I guess I'll go on.
Hold on. David, we got way too much feedback there. David, we got way too much feedback there.
I don't have any other devices running. Is there still a problem?
You're on like a 5-second delay.
Let's see.
You're on like a 5-second delay.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Let me try to rejoin with another device unless it's better now.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll ask a question to Liz.
Yeah, that's
Then I could, ask.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll ask a question to Liz.
Yeah.
So then my question for, Liz, is, that what concrete steps would you suggest that we can take or explore taking at this point in light of the audit? So this is, tangentially, well, it is related to Article 2 and that it's about the audit, but it is more about the larger kind of like what we can do as a town to make sure this type of thing doesn't happen again, like what kind of reforms or what kind of steps can you imagine us taking, rules that we could put into place that would help the town avoid this kind of situation in the first place. I was going to ask this last, since it's kind of a general kind of question, but as we wait for town council, maybe I'll just start with this kind of general question.
Yeah, so, good evening, everyone. There are certain mechanisms, that can be put into place to assure that not only is the information inputted correctly and but also sign-offs are some of those risks or areas of lapse that were identified in the report, such as the routing system of you and assuring that those essential people sign off appropriate in the appropriate spots, that there is funds attested to and all of those steps, and then also the forms that are submitted at the appropriate times. There are mechanisms that actually we have begun already implementing. We do have an online software that creates forms. Some of you have already seen them when you apply for, I use it's called Cognitos and Cognito, and you can see it actually on some of the forms such as the crosswalk. People apply through that. We can generate actually different sign-off structures. And all the fields can be identified as required or not before actually submitting. So those are mechanisms that we have actually begun already. Change order forms have already been sent out and revised to the staff to have all of those identified appropriations and POs and all of those kinds of things. So those are mechanisms that we've already begun putting in place. Also procurement, actual strategies or regulations or requirements or standards, also a guidebook for staff. Training is another element of that I see as even with the board, we have discussed that in the past. I've shared with the board members available training through the state So that way there are different people looking and watching and asking questions based upon actual structure, rules and regulations of that. So those are things that we can put into place and have already begun.
And are there specific things that you could recommend that, say, the finance committee can do more or something part of this, moving forward?
Yeah, I have to look at within the charter of what is the parameters of your oversight, so to ensure that we are following what the actual charter says. But as far as operations, that is what I'm focusing on right now, and that is actually identified in the report, is the actual operation side of it, which is management.
I might suggest that because we didn't really bring this up last time and speak about it, would it be possible for the town manager and the town council to perhaps give a very brief presentation just for the benefit of the public and the boards?
We were not asked to do a presentation. I'm not gonna ask someone to do one that they're not prepared to do.
The only reason I suggested it is because maybe the questions that we have would be addressed if there was a quick overview of what happened and what the town council's position is on the.
If they're comfortable doing that, fine.
On what kind of position and presentation are you looking for?
Something along the lines of procurement audit was undertaken because of X, Y, Z.
Sure.
Results were provided, town council was engaged and believes X, Y, Z at this point.
Yeah, so it is actually outlined in the report as well. And I have mentioned it even at town meeting on May 2nd. There was something, an issue of unpaid bills was brought to my attention. Actually on my second day, or November 5th. So it was officially my third day of work and working here. And I was asked to help out with finding a way to actually pay for the bills. And after looking at it and investigating it a little bit more, it was quite aware that there was no identified appropriation to it. However, the magnitude of the actual work and the layers, as you can see from the report, was something that I felt I needed actual third-party advisement on. So I went on December 1st to the select board, made a public announcement that I was going to go before the finance committee to ask for $50,000 out of the reserve fund to be transferred to pay for third-party engagement to audit and do this kind of research for me. And so with assistance of Copeland and Page, we did enter into agreement with CBIZ and entered on February 3rd an agreement to begin the work, which that is, the results are in the report of what transpired. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you for that.
All right, you were gonna ask other questions for David, is on. I don't
Right, but if it's related to this, do you want?
Related to what?
Or like what Liz just said, or?
Well, I have a list of questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
I read the audit.
So, okay. My first question for David is about insurance. Has the claim been tendered to care regarding the legal costs such, and do we yet know whether any portion of this, or including defense costs, is covered by insurance?
The complaint essentially alleges breach of contract and breach of contract related claims. Those are almost never covered by insurance. I've never seen that kind of a claim be covered by liability.
To elaborate though, we have made the insurance company aware of the claim.
Okay. So that's my short question. I have like long ones.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
my second one is actually we're so I know we split into two articles. Can we only discuss the new Article 2 and not the
No, 2 and 3 we're doing
2 and
right
3?
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one's on Article 3. The 200,000 that is being suggested from stabilization cover litigation costs. And I don't know if this is a question for Liz or for David, so I'll just ask it, whoever, can answer. Okay. So I'd like to understand how we arrived at the $200,000 figure. Is this based on an estimate, a litigation budget from counsel? Does it cover the case through trial or just a phase of it? I asked because it's a meaningful draw, a large draw from stabilization fund, and I want to be confident that we need the full $200,000 now, and yeah.
So, David, I can take this one, because I was the one who suggested it. It is a placeholder for making sure that we have enough funds, for any, uh, legal costs associated with not just the contractor, or any other elements of this whole, report. So that's really what it is, because it has to tie us up until, I just needed to make sure that I had enough funds, because I don't know what the costs are gonna be associated with it.
And how did you come up with the 200?
But basically you look at all the legal costs associated. I used even, Housatonic water as an example. And then also because I've been in this business for 25 years. So I kind of know, a rough estimate to make sure that I had a nice comfortable zone that can get us to at least, to a certain point, so.
So essentially, is this an estimate for like through the entire process, you're thinking 200 is gonna take us, or is it really for like, you know? These things
I
could take a
can't
long
answer
time,
that. I
yeah.
can't answer that.
Okay. So my third question, it's on back to Article 2, the 1 million from the free cash. And I'd like to really understand the financing options, for, regardless of what the decision, may be. So my understanding is that a final court judgment can be financed by borrowing under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, Clause 3. And that such borrowing is a limit to just 1 year, that the Municipal Finance Oversight Board can approve a multi-year term. In fact, that recently the town of Dedham borrowed $4.85 million over a 10-year term under this very clause to cover, also resolve a construction contract judgment. Very different case, but you know, involves construction as well. And also my understanding is that even a settlement, a negotiated settlement, can be financed in this way if it's entered as a stipulated or consent judgment. Which is that's what happened in the Dedham case. Am I correct in my understanding that the final judgment can be financed?
I'll leave that to David.
So I can tell you I was involved in that Dedham case. The general laws do permit an agreement for judgment as a means of resolution. And if there is a borrowing that is required, you would have the appropriation vote. And then, as you said, to the Municipal Finance Oversight Board. In this particular instance, the complaint has only been filed in April. I won't speak specifically to any litigation strategy discussions or anything that's not public, but I would say that the complaint alleges in brief that 1, the town breached the contract, and 2, the town contract money. Answer.
David, we lost
We
your
have
second
those-
point. You froze. Can you just repeat the second point?
Second, recommendations that are made in the complaint essentially say that the town breached the contract and that the town money to the contractor, Moraeus Contractors. We have denied those allegations. We denied liability in a letter to counsel for the contractor that preceded the filing of the complaint. And at this point in the litigation, we are not at a point where there would be terms under which the parties could have an agreement for judgment. Typically, you would have the litigation extend for some substantial period of time before you would be able to get to that point. That's not always the case, but that is more often than not the case in my experience.
And let me then follow by like the rationale behind it. So we're being asked to set aside $1 million to possibly for some outcome. And I understood, and I think the logic behind that is very sound. That it is good to have money available to cover just in case. And we have to settle, or we, have probably lose the case, just know maybe it's raining that day and I'm sure then appeal it. So we have no idea what's gonna happen. Like council said, we have a possible strong case, but we have to prepare for the worst case scenario. And that's the logic behind setting this money aside. However, if it is possible to borrow finance settlement later, say over a 10-year term, which is what Dedham had recently done just this year, isn't that an alternative to rating free cash and simply seeing how the lawsuit proceeds, and then if we have to settle or goes adverse, then we can borrow the money?
Sure, that is an option. However, I believe that there's a $15,000 filing fee for actually that, and then also additional interest that you would be paying. So the cost associated with that is long-term, is you have to also put that into the calculation rather than paying it in one lump sum. And we are, as you can see from all of the data and the information and my advice is that, one, it is not good to be borrowing so much because we need to save that borrowing capacity for actual expenditures associated with any types of capital projects that are done appropriately. And that, two, we don't have borrowing capacity.
What do you mean by we don't have borrowing?
So we are paying right now $3.5 million in our general operating budget for capital expenditures that are borrowed. And the debt, the principal and interest is increasing for FY 27. If we continue borrowing, that 3.5 increases every year. So we have an opportunity to control the costs in our general operating by lowering the actual debt budget line item and pay for things out of free cash. So because it's a one-time cost. So then you can actually balance the budget and reduce your dependency even on free cash and use capital for the free cash. So you basically reverse it. Instead of having it borrow everything, you just pay for it through free cash when it becomes available, So you just don't borrow for a Lamborghini because you want a Lamborghini, right? You borrow for, and you then want $1 million house, and then you want this and that. You're slowly going to deplete what actual revenue is coming in. So that is the whole point of actually putting money aside in free cash for these one-time expenditures. And that is that has been my recommendation, and it remains my recommendation.
I guess the concern that I have is regardless of what happens with the citizens petition, to take out this much money from free cash is really going to drag down, like how much we'll have in free cash. And when we think of the rating of they look at how much debt we have, that's important, but also how much free cash we have in hand.
That's correct. So this actually was reserved in free cash and set it aside. So it is actually, it set it aside. It's very similar to what we did with marijuana, that you set it aside, you don't use it, and then it still remains there. So the balance wouldn't be touched, basically. So until this is all settled.
Okay, so so basically under this, then our free cash balance will basically remain as is, but this section is warded off, so we can't use that for other purposes. That's the way we would.
Yeah, I think so.
And when rating agencies look at what we're doing, they would consider this as part of free cash, as part of our reserve, even though it is warded off.
Just like the marijuana money was categorized, it was all free cash, but it was held in a separate, not really a separate account, it was just accounting for to the public as general fund free cash and this marijuana funds free cash, because we had to reserve that separately, knowing that down the road this was gonna happen.
And then my final related question is it possible to then find, like, if there's a final settlement, pay for much of it using free cash or whatever we set forth, but then finance a portion of it? So does it have to be all or nothing?
I don't know the answer, David. Do you know if a portion, I don't believe a portion of the settlement can be actually financed.
If the issue is an appropriation and there were, there's a settlement agreement for judgment. I'm not aware of any prohibition against fund part of that from one source, part from another. The authorization that was referred to earlier is the ability to borrow for such an obligation, and that would be an option, if you will. Other funds that may be legally expended would or could be available as well.
So we could hypothetically then say set aside $900,000, and then if we end up needing more, when the final judgment comes, we can borrow the remainder of the balance, and of course, then that would be a much smaller borrow we would have to.
That's correct. So the actual, well, the article is written for the full amount, so and any portion thereof going below can actually be amended on the floor, so. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
We have a,
David, if a borrowing authorization were to happen, wouldn't that need to be voted on at town meeting?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So timing wise, that's another thing, and I just caution you. I understand that the MFS, the Mass Finance Oversight Board gave 10 years. That doesn't mean that they're gonna give that to us. Because it is based on many things. It's based on how much it is. It's based on what was behind it. If it's based on the percentage of your budget it is, if you can incorporate it. I just want to make that clear so that we're not expecting it to be a 10-year loan.
Oh, yes.
Come and find out it's not.
Yes, definitely. Like I just pulled up 7 cases, because that's the most recent, but I've seen other cases, the financing period was varied. It all depends on the case at hand.
Michelle, go ahead.
I just want to remind people that, earlier I said rob Peter to pay Paul. Whether we borrow or not, we're robbing the taxpayers. The taxpayers are paying for our borrowing. And which is, in this particular instance, and I did read the audit, I repeatedly said to myself, how could this happen? Repeatedly as I read it. But to begin with my questions, we have internal auditors, correct?
yes.
Okay, and I remember who the auditor was when I was on the finance committee, I don't know. Knowing that I'm a public employee too, knowing the internal audits I've been through, I don't understand how they did not see a red flag.
Yeah.
I just want to say that this activity took place in FY25 and that has just begun.
Okay.
And they audit things that have actually been appropriated, so this is, again, the portion that is under question is items that did not have any identified appropriation attached to it.
Okay,
And there
and
was no procurement attached to it, there was no paperwork, so it was all revealed during May of last year into current.
I'm seeing, reading everything, I'm seeing one of two things happen. It was either total ignorance of procurement law, which I don't think that was the case, because if you have any training in public administration, procurement law is part of it. Or it was just a total disregard of procurement law. And which is egregious. And I don't support either article due to this. I also would like to know, it's usually not just one person, and it's usually not just one instance. Could this have occurred anywhere else? We have many projects going on. The same people who are involved with this are overseeing the other projects. A citizen's brought forward questions on another project in the town of Great Barrington. So are other projects going to be audited as well and reviewed, even if it's by you?
Yeah, so as I've mentioned, and I will continue to mention that, yes, another project, the project at Prosperity Way will be examined. As far as other projects, I don't know at this time, but this one particular one is enough for my attention to make sure that it gets respectfully attended to and cleaned up as in the operations side of things moving forward. But that is also on my end for operations and any personnel related matters.
And it's awesome, at our last meeting, Peter Most brought forward the potential for us going to court. regarding it, which was my first inclination, was to do that as well. I think we're putting the cart before the horse a bit on this. And I'm hearing settlement. I think a big problem Great Barrington has is settlement. And I think this is one time, like, I'm fearful now that this is at the end of the line, that there could be another project and we're gonna be right back here again going, we gotta go to the taxpayer again, something I'll never support. Also looking at, there was a level of carelessness in this. And as a taxpayer, I have a real issue with the high salaries of the people involved. And they didn't know that they shouldn't do this. For example, you know, you look at the scope of the project, it involved Hart Street and Gilmore. And then all of a sudden you're looking at change orders and there's Mason Library. Not even the same type of project. I mean, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to go, gee, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. So I tend to think this was done intentionally. And as a taxpayer, I don't wanna bail out the town of Great Barrington on. I don't think taxpayers should. So the alternative is to go to court over it. And again, anybody who has opportunity to read the 547 pages should really do so, because you just shake your head. And I'm not going to tell this person on Social Security, you have to pay for the previous town manager, assistant town manager, DPW head, what they did. And I think that it was done knowingly, and that really scares me, and there probably is something else out there. And I hope I'm not in this chair when you come back to the table saying, oops, here we have another one. I'm very, very concerned about this. But for the record, I will not support Article 2 and Article 3.
Bill and Jeff.
I appreciate this is a very complex issue, okay, but I'm struck by the fact that Rayo has some very good questions about our ability to borrow to address the issue. And I appreciate how facts have unfolded, but I just want to make it clear that the issue of borrowing some portion of the settlement amount over a certain period of time came up earlier, and we were advised that we could not do that. Okay, so I know things changed, it's very complex, and I'm not trying to.
Settlement. I just wanna clarify, it's not settlement, it's a court judgment.
Right, okay, no, I appreciate that, and there's a lot of technical issues here, and I don't wanna act like I know the answers, but I think that sort of rewind the tape a bit. This is, the forensic report is a very detailed horror movie, okay? It's many things that went wrong. So I'm gonna speculate that we all agree on that, okay? But we have to figure out how to clean it up, okay? And a lot of that is understanding what happens if we go to court and lose, and what happens if we're judicially determined to have to pay this on X date. We have to be able to prepare for that. So I appreciate your counsel on how, you know, we're full up on borrowing. We need to kind of stop borrowing and pay back some of that amount. I fully appreciate that. At the same time, what struck me at the beginning of this discussion is that for all the wrong reasons, this $1 million represents an incremental amount of road work, drainage work, street reconstruction work that we typically finance via borrowing 3, 5, 7 years out. So, well, we don't want to kick any cans down the road. Everything else remaining the same. We did more street work than we were expecting to. If we had done it the right way, we'd be borrowing 3 or 5 or 7 years to pay that bill. Couldn't we just do that in this circumstance and ask taxpayers to approve that? Not a great outcome, but it might be less bad than other outcomes, particularly with respect to our current budget and next year's budget. So I know I'm oversimplifying it, Allison. I can read your face there, but
I was just gonna kind of pass that one on to Dave, because I'm thinking that since the work's already been done and the expenditures are already in place, a capital borrowing authorization is now too late. So the only thing that could be done is a final court judgment borrowing. Is that correct, David?
I think I heard all of what you said. As I understand all the facts now, that would be the option available.
Can you repeat that? We have a motorcycle going down the street.
I said that I thought I heard everything that Ally had said, and that as I understand the facts now, the borrowing option for an agreement for judgment under the applicable statutory provision would be the borrowing route.
Right, but we can't go back and do a capital borrowing once the work's been done, correct?
I'm not sure I've ever seen that. I absolutely not do that, but I'm not aware of a situation like that.
Okay, so,
That's not what you meant, right?
well, I mean, again, so we could resolve this by settling with Moraes over coffee tomorrow morning and agreeing on amount. We could play it out longer term in the judicial process and getting that judicial final settlement, or probably anywhere in between. So, the question is that if we're able to have a reasonable likelihood of success of resolving this matter in a way that allows us to borrow that amount over, call it 5 years, it's not a great outcome, but it will take a little pressure off of our, very difficult budget issues basically we're dealing with today with respect to lifeguards and co-responders. And so I think that if that is in fact an option, and I appreciate all the nuance to it, we're probably not gonna get clarity on that tonight. It's complicated, it's unique. But, if the borrowing is an option, then we need to continue to sort of view that as one of our options in our toolkit. And it might be the least worst, the least bad way to go. So I know that's I'm sure that's counter to what Liz is recommending, and I respect that. But I come back to my upfront issue, in that is road work. We always borrow to pay for road work.
You did.
You
did.
know,
Let me point that out. You did
we
used to borrow.
just borrowed, we didn't
Okay.
borrow enough.
I'm just saying you did used to borrow.
So obviously
So-
look, I appreciate that too. So we have to try to get some, if we need to make decisions now, we need to make decisions based upon, whatever opportunities we may or may not have about borrowing out of this. I would like that left on the table as an option. Jonathan, on there.
Thank you. At this time, I am not feeling inclined to vote yes for either of these articles. I think what we've seen in the procurement report findings and comments from members of our community indicate that there may be multiple lines of defense for the town. And to me, there is an open question on whether the town even does have liability for this, because it seems that the excess monies were not legally authorized by the town. And my understanding, again, not as a lawyer, is that the liability, if a contract is not properly authorized and appropriated by a municipality, lies with the vendor, not with the town. So my sense, while expressing sincere appreciation to all vendors who work with our town, including the vendor who is at the middle of this situation right now, my feeling is that our primary fiduciary responsibility as a board lies with our taxpayers. So my preference would be to see this process continue to play out, and to not take an unnecessary risk at this time by tying up so much of our free cash.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So if that is the sentiment of everyone, to go to court and play it out, are you comfortable with then me going and asking for additional money from the reserve fund transfer in the middle of the year because it is not incorporated? So I just want to make sure that I have enough funds to move forward with what the elected body here in front of me is advising me and supporting to move forward, I need to make sure that I have the financial resources to move that forward.
You need to pay
And
the-
not impact all the normal legal budget that we have.
Legal bill is what you're talking about.
That's what I mean. It is going to cost money to go this route. So I do need additional financial resources to move forward in any direction that the body, both finance committee and the select board advise me to do.
Eric, and then Bill, and then Rayo, then Garfield.
Yeah, I have a few things to say, but I wanted to have clarification over yours and Phil's discussion and just make sure that I understood. We used to pay for roads and stuff via financing, but I believe it was last year we decided to change that, correct? Is that what you
That's
mean?
what I mean, yeah.
That-
is that we're-
So we're not planning next time we do a road, if our budget planning, like we set forth last year is right, that next time we do road work, it would come out of free cash, not through borrowing.
That's the objective.
That's the
right?
objective.
That is
That's what we're hoping to
We've all
reach.
decided that, or at least we're gonna be working on a policy also of like how we're gonna be moving forward. So
Correct.
that is my recommendation, is to utilize free cash or put money aside into the capital stabilization. And then those are what the funds for then matching with grants, Mass DOT, Chapter 90, all of those other additional funding sources. So it's not borrowing the whole whatever millions of dollars, yeah, for projects.
And so since we're on this, I guess it's each thing that we're talking about tonight makes things more difficult next year, right? Each thing does. And I understand, I'm not saying let's write this check for 1,200,000 and just hand it to Marias and maybe we can give them more next year. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, in my opinion, financial responsibility is understanding what liabilities you might have coming up and making sure you're prepared for them. So the thoughts of having this set aside like we did when we understood the situation with the cannabis and we had it marked in our free cash pile, having some amount of funds to understand liabilities that can come forward just seems like the responsible thing for us to do. And I'm not, and then let's see what happens with the court. Like I understand that, but to me, in my mind, since I'm in construction, I see a project here. This is the absolute worst case scenario. I am obviously hoping that I'm gonna get that come in under, and that's how I view this situation. I'm not trying to stick the taxpayers. I understand this report is jaw dropping. I understand that. But I do think as a town, we need to have, let's call it our little rainy days fund set aside. And I sure hope we don't have to spend it. But I do think that sitting here at this table, that we need to safeguard ourselves and have this sitting aside and with intentions of not spending it. But if the way I'm hearing it, if we don't pass Article 2, and whatever court settlement might happen or agreement might happen, whatever comes down the road, here's yet another hurdle that we're tripping over or trying to figure out to get through. In one of our 60 hours worth of meetings, we're probably gonna have next budget season. So that's where my mind's at right now.
I'm gonna go to Garfield, then Phil, then Rayo. Garfield hasn't spoken then.
I just would, I do appreciate having a little bit of a rainy day fund for sure. And I probably will support these. I've always said, I'm not a money person, not a finance, my always is the bottom line, what's it gonna cost me? If we're talking about borrowing money, that's obviously gonna come right up to us paying that back. And that doesn't excite me in the least bit. So I'm not really excited about borrowing any money. That's gonna come down and that's why the people almost go 2 to 1, not to have 2.5, because it's gonna raise your taxes after just having your raised tax from the school. So, I am pleased that it did not pass. I'm not happy some of these things didn't go on, but I didn't want to pay any more taxes. We pay plenty of taxes in this town. I think borrowing money now is a bad idea. And we'll be paying for it later, and it will be worse than it is now, and it's pretty ugly now.
Bill, go ahead. So let's break it down into three basic outcomes. One, which is the one we'd all prefer, is that if it's determined that the contractor basically didn't follow the rules, didn't get a sign off from the town manager, and therefore we don't owe them the money, that's by far the best outcome, right? The next outcome is we have to pay the money, but we can borrow it over 5 years, so it's 200 grand a year plus interest. And then the worst outcome to me is having to basically pay for that now upfront out of this year's budget, and it blows out some other very worthy budget line items. So those are the three options. This is a question for Liz and really for David. So a part of this is really all of us handicapping what is our odds of basically winning this issue in court. And we've heard a number of different opinions about this. But I just want to point out that the forensic report, which is very detailed and very professional and very valuable, looks at a great deal of paperwork and fact pattern and evidence, but it's not looking at any of the, as far as I know, it's not looking at any of the email correspondence between various town staff and the contractor.
That's correct.
And that to me is a critical part of handicapping whether or not we would win in court or not. I mean, so we could take the position that you know, the town manager didn't sign, end of discussion, we don't owe the money. But there just could be a full array of email correspondence to the contractor, essentially, you know, basically contradicting that conclusion and basically, you know, hurting us significantly in a court discussion. So that's really an unknown to this group. So when we think about our odds in court, I propose that we keep that in mind. But let me ask David if, you know, if you agree with what I said, and maybe you could say that in a more, you know, informed way.
With how to analyze or handicap the town's chances?
Well, I mean, in other words, you know, what I'm saying is we're not really in a position to take a view that in a simplistic way that contractor didn't get Liz to sign off on this work and therefore we don't owe them the money.
There's nothing to do with Liz.
All right, okay, all right, so sorry about that. Yeah, okay, so let me retract that statement. The contractor didn't get the then town manager to sign off on that work. And therefore, we don't owe them the money. That would be the best outcome for the town. But
go ahead.
But if we would take that position, but then the contractor would probably, through discovery, look at hundreds of emails between staff and the contractor that may or may not support that conclusion, right?
All I am comfortable saying in public is that we don't have all the information that we could conceivably have. We have denied liability in litigation, and we will proceed as the facts inform us. I don't think it's fair to the town.
Okay, no, that's fair, but I would say that, so I'll conclude in that the forensic report is critical, but it's just one piece of the puzzle if we were to go to court. There's a whole rest of the story which may not help us in trying to basically get out of this predicament.
Rayo and then Dan and then Garfield and then Michelle.
And I think regarding the 1,200,000, first of all, I think we should keep these two separate. And I don't think we should be speculating or handicapping or whatnot when we make those decisions. These are financial decisions, and then we have to think more in terms of financial terms, not legal terms. Like, what can we afford? What can we not afford if we do this? How can we pay for it? Things of that sort. So that's kind of the framework that I'm approaching these questions and such. So. And the reason why I say I wanted to keep the 1 million to the 200,000 separate is that these are very separate things that we are asking us to pay. And I'm inclined to, for example, support the 200,000 or whatever amount, because we do need to pay legal fees. And it seems wise to set aside money to pay for legal fees, especially from stabilization, since and this is not the money that we could use to pay for life, but this is this is precisely the type of thing that exists in order to pay for these types of things, needs existence stabilization. And it takes a 2/3 vote, and we don't want to keep having town meetings and such. So this seems to be a good time. It was to set aside some amount of money to pay for the legal fees, because regardless of whether we win, we lose, we settle, what have you, we have to pay our legal fees. So we need some amount of money set aside. So I'm very supportive of setting something aside. And it seems like $200,000, a very well thought out amount, and we certainly can afford that using stabilization. So that I'm fully supportive.
I'm sorry, and just as my recommendation also to remind you was, if we have enough in free cash, that it would be then replenished back in, that it would be prioritized to be put back into free cash or a portion of it, so we can continue replenishing back in the capital stabilization, okay? So that also was my recommendation for using capital stabilization.
General stabilization, not capital.
No, this is capital.
Oh, this is capital stabilization.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going, go ahead.
I wanted to clarify.
So the initially brought up this issue of borrowing, and I just want to make sure there's no confusion about with what it means, like borrowing. So there's, there's three outcomes are possible. We win, we lose, or we settle. Like those are the three possible outcomes. Now, whether we lose, if we win, correct. But if we have to settle or if we lose, we can have a court final decision on that. And once there is a court final decision, that's the point at which we can borrow. So it's not that we're borrowing now, such and such. If we have to settle because of court final decision, or if we lose and we have to pay for this because we have to, it is a court decision, we have to pay for it. At that point, we can borrow. But I also take your point very seriously in that it is best not to have all this borrowing because if we borrow, we have to pay for interest. And we are in a relatively high interest environment. So my initial concern, the reason why I asked this had to do with our free cash position, because there's several things that really is important for the bond rating. First, bond rating is important because that affects the future capacity to borrow and how much the taxpayers pay. Now, for the bond rating, it is important that our total borrowing is not high. So ideally, we don't borrow. It is also important that we have a healthy free cash position, and we need for what is a healthy free cash? Well, it's about $817,000 to $1.14 million. So that's the bandwidth we want to stay in. So I was deeply concerned that we would completely go off this band, but I was reassured by Liz's comments that if we set aside this money for possible settlement or what have you, some final decision, that would still count as within the free cash. So that is not going to hurt our bond rating because it's still in free cash, in which case I think it is indeed wise to leave something in there. So we're not completely relying on bond rating. So the question becomes, what's the dollar amount? Of course, the article is for $1 million. During town meeting, we can reduce to whatever amount. Clearly, we can't pass everything because that's going to take us below zero, and that is impossible. Like that is not legally possible. So we can, between now and then, we could possibly think of what the right amount is to set aside for this. But since that is in free cash, I'd be very comfortable setting aside some dollar amount for this, for the final decision.
Yeah. I just kind of want to start by commenting on the fact that at the beginning of this budget process, which we're still in the achievement in its own way, we said to Liz that we wanted to get off our reliance on free cash and debt. And now we're ending up almost depleting our free cash and talking about how can we use debt. So I just want to note that as a way of just like, we started with one goal, we tried to temper that. I'm very worried about our ability to actually get that. Like, we really need a roadmap for this, and just kind of figuring out year to year. We're always going to kind of, hopefully there won't always be an audit like this, but we're going to get hit. I don't know. So just voice my frustration because as I said, this sucks. It does. It's all right.
Just who it's coming from.
Yeah. But like, after the override, it feels like holding onto this money is like, there's an appetite for us to be incredibly conservative and prudent with the town's finances. And holding onto the money to make sure that we can absorb the shock of whatever the outcome of this is, feels like the prudent thing to do. That being said, there's also the political reality of what's going to happen on the floor of the special town meeting, because we are asking people to, as Michelle has said, cover up a mistake, a thing that shouldn't have
Bail
happened.
out.
Exactly, bail them out. And then we have also just heard the incredibly passionate arguments for paying for all of the things that will increase the quality of life for people in this town, make them safer, like that they can see and feel. That's a really hard vote to bring to the floor. And I don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to go the way that we're going to go, or that we would want it to go. So I think having a plan, figuring out what that number is, and kind of expecting this to kind of not go away is weirdly the most prudent thing to do. So.
Powerful.
When Phil was stating that the town manager didn't sign it and then we don't own the money, I think that's a pipe dream. Any lawyer worth their salt is going to be able to find out that we indeed owe them the money. So I don't think we should shun that. I don't think it's a great idea to go to court. I think that we're not going to have to pay him. I don't think that's going to happen.
Michelle, then Michelle.
I just want to point out to people, we were talking about the ambulance squad. And like I said, I would highly recommend if anybody around this table did not review the 547-page report, they do it. Because when you see that the project was for Hart Street and Gilmore Avenue, but there's a $95,000 order in the packet for Mason Library, that $95,000 would cover what you're asking for. So let's be real. Regarding emails, it's been my experience being in the public sector. You know, you can email, but you better damn well have those signatures, and there better be authorized signatures on your paperwork. I mean, that's kind of management 101. Business management 101. I could say, hey, Steve, I'm gonna give you $100,000. Well, that's all fine and good, but until I get the check with my name on it, it's not going to fly. And to be honest with you, even if it's determined that it's $500, we need to ask the taxpayers for, I still wouldn't recommend it. I didn't agree with the marijuana settlement. I read the legal brief to that. There was a level of accountability by our then town manager. It was never discussed. And here we go again on this. And again, my fear is there's something else out there. So I agree 100% with Jeff and Peter Mose. Let's go to court. And I'm more comfortable with approving money for an attorney to go to court than just saying here. I think Great Barrington's fallen into a state where it's like when you're a parent and your kid keeps breaking his bicycle, mommy, buy me a new bicycle, and you do the first couple times because you love your kid. And here we go, we have a broken bicycle, and there's a point where a parent goes, you know what? We're not buying you another bicycle. You're gonna have to figure out, you're either gonna take duct tape and fix it. Well, I think we're at the duct tape stage. So I'm really frustrated by what I'm hearing, because it is a bailout. That's what it is, and I want to see accountability.
I just have a couple of questions. I mean, again, nobody has a crystal ball, but if we set aside that, 200,000 for legal, does David Dineski have? How long would the litigation timeline? I know they're always lengthy.
I can't tell you.
Would it
I
be
can't tell you.
Would it be extensive?
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
That's speculation. I can't do that.
Okay, well, and then the other thing with free cash, if we just earmarked some, not the whole million, but some, does that just sit there?
Yeah.
Can it be used for anything else if there's another emergency?
No, because I would have a vote from from the elected body as well as then town meeting. So it is set aside for a specific purpose, but then if the closeout of it, then we can actually release it back into the general
Right.
free cash.
What if we did nothing and just let the free cash that we have sit?
Then it's up for grabs.
Yeah, so.
Mhm.
What,
So there could be other petitioned articles that come up and availability for usage, but
that's just speculation that there are going to be other petition articles that come up. And then if, if we keep going
but
and
yeah,
it
right.
gets certified, then in, say, November or December, hopefully, fingers crossed, we get another little pool of cash into there. And then maybe we don't really have to worry about this $1 million.
So, yeah, so we, this is a really good example as to why you should actually have more than 5 to 7% free cash because of those and it is, you're right, Michelle, this is a very unfortunate moment for the town to just be faced with. I do not disagree with you at all. This is a truly uncomfortable and unfortunate moment. And I am so deeply sorry for all of you guys to be faced with this, and this is not what I thought I was gonna be entering. Steve warned me it was gonna be hard, but this is something that we're gonna be working together. We are having this conversation, so. Again, this is why we should have a healthy free cash for these moments, because we don't know if there's gonna be a special town meeting call, we don't know of all of those things, so that's why you do have a healthy reserve in your free cash, so. I would feel comfortable having set aside a portion of it, and so I did the most because you can't go beyond that at town meeting, so, but I feel it is, it would be reflective positively for the auditors that we are acknowledging there is a potential obligation, a financial payment out that we can then have some type of money set aside that is dedicated for it, but then have another portion for the rainy days and the other things that are coming up. Because I don't know, I cannot forecast at this time, as Mr. Bailey asked, when does free cash get certified? When do we know? We don't know what actually is gonna be returned back. And I don't know how much is going to be costing for FY 28. I have yet to do any forecast. I don't know what the numbers are. So we may still, and I did mention this during our 70 some hours of FY 27 budget building, that last year it was under 4 million, now we're at 4 million, and then it's gonna continue to grow the dependency on the free cash. So we just have to anticipate that as well. So again, these are all the things that I wanna make sure that I bring to everybody's attention to think about. It is a very complex situation that we have to talk about.
Right.
So one, I don't know if this is a question or comment because it's, because I don't think it is necessarily possible to predict, but I would imagine that when bond raters and such look at our fund, because I keep going back to, there's a reason why I keep going back to that is because if the future borrowing cost goes up, it is going to be detrimental to our taxpayers. So if we're talking about, protecting our taxpayers, we have to make sure that we're not going to have to pay more for our borrowing. And once the rating goes down, it is hard to get it back up again. And once you accelerate a downward trend now, because we already got cut once, and it cuts down again in rapid succession, that's bad, because that sends a particular signal to the market about, how much people will be willing to buy our bonds. So I keep going back to that. Now, I would imagine that it would send a positive signal if we are proactive and thinking of possible future obligations, not necessarily it will come to that, by setting aside something. I think that is prudent because it is good, like you said, good to have that there. We don't want to be in a situation where we have nothing there and then we have to scramble to have a town meeting. It is good to have something there. But B, we have to send a signal to the financial markets. And we may not like the financial markets, but ultimately it's going to affect the taxpayers because our taxes are going to change depending on how much we pay for future borrowing. And that must, as in the finance committee, that is at the forefront of my thought. is to ensure that, you know, our taxpayers are not having to pay more for their borrowing, and this has nothing to do with the lawsuit. And, you know, or the idea that, like, well, when I say nothing to do with the lawsuit, what I mean is that these are two separate issues we have to think about. Yes, the lawsuit is triggering this, but it's an entirely separate issue on how do we ensure that we're not paying more for future borrowing. And there's particular things we could do now. Now, like, you know, I think all of us are upset with the situation, mad with the situation that we, like, the.
Keep looking at me. Yeah.
You are good at expressing your anger.
I'm Italian, so.
In the state, because right, I know, I can say you're not done yet, but, you know, but yes, but on the other hand, we have to ensure our financial health in the future, and setting aside something seems to have, we got a little bit of both, that we have enough free cash to do the things we want to do. We have enough free cash for a little bit of flexibility. On the other hand, we have set aside something to signal that we are proactive, we're thinking about the future, and then we can enter the next budget cycle. And I think, you know, like, we're not in a good place right now, but then, you know, more like better than we would be otherwise.
So a couple things, I'll let a couple people speak, gonna let citizens speak, and then we'll make our recommendations. So one of the things is, Michelle, you're right, we always have to anticipate the next shoe is gonna drop, there may be something else. The positive is that so far, there's been no other contractor sending us bills saying we have money. So far. I would think that they would have done that by now, because this has been very long, but I'm just saying. So the other part of this that we really have to decide is the lesser of two evils. Liz came in here and said, we have to stop our reliance on free cash, and we have to stop our reliance on borrow. And right now, what we're talking about with this $1 million, do we want to take it out of free cash, or do we want to borrow? It becomes the lesser of two evils. We don't want to do either.
Yeah.
Because we're really working to stop our reliance on both of those. But if it's determined that we owe the money, the third option is the worst, and that's to increase taxes. And that would be the worst. The other two increase it slower. It still increases taxes eventually, because if you're planning to use free cash next year and you have less of it, then you increase taxes. Borrowing, you have to pay back. It's funny that way. It seems okay until you pay back. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, Michelle. I'm just saying, there's no right answer. There's no right answer here, is what I'm saying. So I'm gonna give a couple more people a chance to talk. We'll get public comment, and then we'll make our recommendations. So I think, Michelle, you had your hand up, and then Phil.
And the thing, what I don't understand is that the town of Great Barrington hired people to do a job, and they were paid very, very well to do it. And again, this is like entry level in your MPA program on what you do. And there's no excuse for it. And Ray, I disagree with you. You know, we're not protecting our taxpayers. If we were protecting our taxpayers, we would have hired people who know what they're doing, not just keep giving them raises every year. And I'm so sorry, Ben, I'm gonna trump your word.
Did you check with him first?
Yeah, can I?
I can't be discriminatory, I let Ben say it.
I said it was mild.
I said, I'm sorry, our town hall screwed the taxpayers over. And I truly feel that, again, I won't vote for the $1 million. No way in hell I'm going to do that. Oh, there's another one, sorry.
We're gonna get a car out, and you guys contribute.
That's really nothing.
Blah, 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 and everything like that. But it's to cover up what has occurred here. And I'm sorry, Steve, in my heart of hearts, there's something else there. There is. And I just think we should go to court and then take it from there. And I hate the word settle. I hate the word. And again, it's like, obviously I'm not an attorney. We heard an attorney talk to it. but I had that in my head prior to that. I'm getting a little tired of the town of Great Barrington rolling over at the expense of the taxpayer. And we're talking about cutting, what it was the cost of parking for 20,000, everybody's going, oh, and we're talking $1 million here because somebody screwed up, and I think they did it intentionally. That's my opinion. If you look at everything, there's no way in heck. There's no way in heck. And I'm expected to take procurement classes, and our town manager at that time to make sure it wasn't Liz, didn't know that you should have signatures. I mean, in my job every day, I have to get signatures. And I just absolutely refuse to do this.
Bill, and then we'll go to public comment.
All right, try to be quick. I think I'm gonna speculate again, and we all agree that this sucks, okay? And we all agree that it would be by far the best outcome if the judge ruled that and disallowed this claim on the town. We all agree, and I completely agree with that. That would be a terrific outcome. But what if that doesn't happen? So what's the other side of that? If we go to court, so we have to pay legal fees, and they'll be significant. And we also have an interest bill accruing on the payable. And that the worst case outcome is we basically are out our legal fees and we're out full accrued interest on the amount for whatever period of time it took to settle. And then we also owe the amount that the contractor wants. So the downside is I'll make up a number, I don't know, 1.3. I'll make up a number, pulling it out of the air. So we can collectively decide that we don't want to pay this bill, we don't want to reserve these monies, we don't want to have to make these difficult decisions about important town services now. But we all need to, in my opinion, need to collectively understand that there is a downside. The judge could kick us out of court, and we owe $1.3 million payable in X number of days. And what do we do at that point? Where do we get that money?
That's a legal deficit. It's a court judgment. We're allowed to have a legal deficit. And then at the end of the fiscal year, just like the canvas money, what would happen then is we would have to provide for that deficit. So you would either have to vote free cash if there's enough in
No,
it.
we wouldn't have free cash. Yeah.
That's what I say. If there was enough in it, or you'd have to raise it on your taxes. And that would not be possible because you don't have enough excess levy capacity to do so.
So we would basically have to
Well, fine.
talk to the town and convince them that we're asking for the override, and if we don't get it, we have a huge problem. So again, I'm highlighting the downside, it has to be part of our decision-making process. So it's, we really could lose big time and have to pay a significant amount in addition to what sort of numbers that we're seeing right now.
That's a quick procedural question.
Yes.
So, this is me being new to this kind of question, but, if there's a particular article, say like, I don't know, say, like, article, 2 is 1 million set aside, but let's say I want to set aside something, but I don't agree to the 1 million, then I would be voting no, because that's for 1
Or you
million.
can make an amendment to it and lower it. You can't
But
raise.
that would be,
But not tonight.
not tonight, like, when we do a recommendation.
You-
vote, like,
You could.
You can make a recommendation for a lower amount, and then we would make sure that that is listed in the actual handbook that we hand out, that your recommendation is what that is.
So
So
Liz-
it'd be up on the screen,
Yeah.
so.
So, just so I understand, since this is a town article, it's not a citizen's petition, it's handled differently. If we voted something lower than the 1 million. The the warrant's already signed. So the motion would be for the 1 million and then the amendment to lower it.
And you can make the motion for actually a lower, correct, David, if I'm wrong, but you can make a motion for a lower amount within, actually, if you made the motion, Steve, because it's endorsed by the select board, you can actually make an amend it right there in the motion, the first
Okay.
motion.
That's right.
Okay, there's your answer.
Can you make your moderator well aware of that, please?
He's online now, I think. so.
Well, I hope he understands that clearly.
Let's not have public comment.
But tonight, when we are, recommending or not recommending, I would be like, I recommend, but for a lower amount.
Yes, you can make a motion tonight. I recommend $1. I recommend,
Right,
I mean, tonight you can't go above the million because the warrant's already
right.
signed, but you can say 900,000. You can say any number you would like.
And then we will vote on that.
Yes. Yes. So,
And to be clear, the finance committee takes one vote and the select board takes another vote. So you could have opposing votes or different votes, excuse me.
and it's the finance committees that is the motion, it's the warrant.
Yeah.
And with, so then. I don't know if this question is appropriate before or after the citizens, so maybe, I think maybe I don't think people wants to speak, but is there, if we were to lower it, change to some other amount, is there any amounts that you would be comfortable with?
It's a reasonable question.
It is a reasonable question. I don't know the answer, Rio, to be honest.
Can I ask David a question while you're thinking?
Yes.
David, in these type of, I won't use the word settlements, judgments by the court, is there usually one or the other, or is there somewhere in between? Like, could they say, well, the town's at fault and the contractor, so you have to pay half of it?
Well, first, if this case plays out, this would be a jury case because the plaintiff has made a jury trial demand, and this is a kind of, it can be tried to a jury, and the jury would consider all of the factors, be instructed on the law by the judge, and then return a verdict that would be a single number as to any particular part.
So it could be any number.
Conceivably, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if that helps for them.
Well, the current amount without the interest, I believe, is 869,000 or 864. So that is the unpaid bills of work that is in the pay act. So
The interest is 12% a year, right?
so with the accrued interest, I believe we're in excess of over 50,000 additional funds at this point. Okay, so we're well over, I think, 920,000 at this point. And that's from town meeting.
So
So
there's a, I'm sorry, to interrupt, but there's an interest rate that's specified by state law.
That's correct.
And it's a daily rate.
David, can you, I believe it's daily, right?
There's an interest rate that applies to payments when they are made under the contract. When a plaintiff gets a court judgment, there's a statutory rate on judgments, and that is the 12% figure.
It's a pretty steep interest, 12%.
Yes, that only kicks in after we lose after the judgment.
No, it's from the beginning. So like, really meant to the Devon case, so that one, it started out at like closer to 3 million. It took 7 years until the end, and it was 6 million by the end of the town. They lost.
Yeah, real money. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. Public comment, everyone has 3 minutes.
Peter Most, I'll speak quickly on Article 1. I don't understand why we'd be setting aside $75,000 for Housatonic Waterworks legal fees. Based on everything we've heard here tonight, the town does not have the wherewithal to buy Housatonic water. And I know folks in Housatonic want this resolved. It can get resolved by PUC enforcement actions. The town can't afford it. And we already know from April 2025, when the town was asked at a special town meeting to appropriate $2.3 million to buy Housatonic water, the town said no. So I think you need to respect that and look at where we are with respect to town's budget and make a determination that it would be lovely to be able to own Housatonic water, but the town doesn't have the wherewithal to do it, and we should not be appropriating those funds. With respect to all the discussion concerning Article 2, I appreciate that town council can't speak about why you should win this lawsuit. And I think some of you know that I've written about the fact why you should win this lawsuit. I'm often asked, I'm a business litigator, I'm often asked by my clients, how are you going to do on this? And I always tell them the same thing. There's no such thing as a dead bang winner, and there's no such thing as a dead bang loser. They all fall into 75, 50, and 25% baskets. Well, this is really beyond that 75% basket. Earlier, Phil, you mentioned that we don't know what the emails say.
Just to the chair, you know.
I apologize. Earlier today, one of your board members, I beg God.
Yeah, you got the wrong.
Go protect that. Earlier tonight, Bill mentioned, well, we don't know what the emails say. And that this forensic report is detailed. My God, that is a gift to the town. That forensic report shows that what needed to be signed and authorized by the town wasn't. It doesn't matter if Joe said to Jane, you know, we're not going to pay this. The emails don't matter. What matters is following municipal law. It didn't happen here. This is 100% case. Although I'm probably going to regret saying that at some point, but this is certainly in the 75% basket. So you have to ask yourself, why would you set aside $1 million when this town needs all the cash it can possibly have when you have a winning case? And I'll say this also, we had a losing case on the community impact fees. When you were sued by all the cannabis retailers, there had already been 4 lawsuits on those very same host agreements, and the towns had lost them all. But you didn't have the town manager, Mark Perinsky, say, we should set aside 6.37 million. You just left it in free cash and you showed the discipline to do that. And that's what you should do here. Show some discipline, leave the money in free cash, which will also, Rayo, look better to your the credit agencies to see that cash sitting there. And any lawyer that looks at it is going to know that that is not a legitimate concern.
Thank you, Vito. Who else would like to speak? We'll take one online. Amanda, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Putting my Great Barrington resident hat on. What I'm hearing tonight from our town manager is that we have significant exposure in terms of risk of financial liability, and that at the same time, it is an important priority to maintain a healthy level of free cash while also changing borrowing behaviors. I understand from the winter budget meetings that the decision was to wean the town off of balancing the budget with free cash. I urge the select board and finance committee to heed the advice we are receiving and recommend the town maintain healthy recommended levels of free cash, stop borrowing, and not put the town into an even more precarious financial position by not being prepared in the event of the lawsuit or judgment. I'm unsure what language I'm supposed to be using, does not go in our favor. I get that this is not a simple case to communicate to the town meeting body, but I think it's what needs to be grappled with as members of the town meeting. I also think it's important for town meeting to hear information about the interest the town is accruing currently on the balance owed. I think you're receiving prudent advice from our town manager and should heed that advice until the town meeting or unless the town meeting directs otherwise. And then 2 simple clarifications following up on Peter's comments. Regarding the special town meeting about Housatonic Waterworks, my understanding was that vote was more complicated than a simple up or down vote. We voted down a specific proposal that multiple select board members urged us to vote against to allow the select board and town manager to proceed with the process they were in at the time. And regarding the cannabis mitigation funds, I would like to just clarify that while those were not restricted by an appropriation, they were legally restricted by the terms of the fees, that those fees could only be used in very limited ways, and there was no way at any point we could have used those fees for operating costs. Thank you.
Excellent. She's correct. John Bruston? You're unmuted, John. John, while you work on unmuting yourself, I'm gonna move to a friend.
Ken Schumacher, 160 Castle Street. And I know the situation's terrible, but this is where we are. And I think maybe you should try to raise the money you need to keep free cash and to pay everything that's on the article. I think raising $1 million would add what, 35 cents to the tax rate. And if everything goes as you plan and we don't have to pay this guy, you bill quarterly. You give the money back to the people in, on a reduced tax rate over the next 2 or 3 quarters. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. John, are you unmuted? Got your hand raised, you worked on that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I just have 2 comments to make. I'm not asking any questions. I've read or scanned the whole auditor's document, and it seems clear from what the auditor writes there that the responsibility for this apparent error of not getting the proper signatures related to a change order was due to mistake made by former town manager Mark Prohensky. The second comment is just, I'm distressed to see that assistant town manager Rimbold has been suspended with pay. That man was doing, until Liz Hartsgrove was hired, he was almost doing 3 jobs. The job of town manager, the job of assistant town manager, and the full-time job for which he was hired in 2009 of town planner. So I'm distressed to see some implied culpability on Chris Rembold's part. That just bothers me. Having watched his really competent performance as a town employee for 17 years now. That's all I have to say.
Thanks. Anyone else? See no other hands. So we will now we'll go through Article 1, Article 2 and 3, and then Article 4. We don't have to go in that order. Oh, did we skip that? See, meeting goes over 2 hours, my mind's gone. Liz, do you have a recommended amount? No. Thank you for reminding me. So either board. Okay, there's another hand up, which is after the time it wasn't up, but I'll go ahead with this. Just James, go ahead.
84 North Plain Road. I just want to say that whatever's happened with Joe and Chris, I don't think it's. Chris has done a great job as an interim TM, and I don't think it's justified. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with Article 1. Does either side have a motion on Article 1? We can do whatever you would like to do. We can do all 7 of them. I find it interesting, and now Mr. Most can't talk, I can say it, is that he brought this forward. He doesn't recommend the 75,000, but it's part of his motion. It's a little perplexing to me how you could have skipped it. No, you could have skipped my turn. You could have skipped, you could have not brought that forward. You could have just brought 6 of them. But you make things more complicated for us.
Should we go
Can I not
one at a
respond?
time on that?
I'm fine with that.
What, going one at a time or with the whole package inside?
I guess I prefer a whole package.
The whole package, which would include the lifeguards, the skate park,
The whole 7.
the whole 7.
If you ask my opinion, yes, the board, it may be different, but. If you have all 7, it can be changed on the town meeting floor, the voters can take one out. If we take it out now. It will still be, they can still do it, but it'll have a negative recommendation. You can't take it out.
You can't take it out.
Yeah, that's-
You would not recommend number whatever.
Yeah.
That's how you would vote, you would recommend all but whatever number that you do not, if that is your motion.
You wanna make a motion?
I mean, my motion, even though it is a little more time consuming, would be to go through line by line, as there may be different recommendations for each article, and perhaps we could take care of that now rather than on the town meeting floor.
What's gonna happen on the town, it most likely will happen on the town meeting floor by the voters. So it may or may not, but
They would get, I'm sorry, Mayor, yeah, they would just get an actual, like supplement to the packet showing what your votes were for each item. So that's really, so they can gauge it and that would be posted.
And if I could share a personal motivation, I regrettably can't make the town meeting because of a family obligation that I can't
No.
leave. So my preference would be to go through line by line so that I could offer my opinion. Whereas I would not be able to on the town meeting floor.
so the only thing. Whatever you guys decide to do. If the first vote you take is for all 7 and it fails. Then you can. Obviously, either it's always gonna fail, or you go by line by line. So that's your choice. I mean, whichever you wanna do, your board.
I guess, I just have one question, because, you know, actually, Phil made this comment last time meeting, but some of these, 6 of the 7 understand what's going on, but I just still don't understand what this the water was legal fees, what that's exactly about, so I have I don't have any foundation upon which to recommend yes or no.
Right, but Liz, do you wanna just,
Right, so a joint filing has been made with the SJC and the DCU.
We can't hear. I'm sorry, Irene.
So is this better?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Liz. You're welcome.
I'll use my stage projection. So there has been a filing with the SJC and DPU review. And so that could take any amount of time. So right now it's kind of in limbo, it's in the queue, but it just has yet to have identification of when that is going to happen. So this is setting aside the legal fees that will be associated with that joint filing. So, and it could happen this for FY 27.
And do we have a particular amount already set aside that could start covering for this?
No, that's what this was for.
Or like your legal fees in general, the town is set aside.
Right, so since my arrival, legal fees were kind of lumped into one actual general account. But there are specialty items such as Housatonic Waterworks. General operating is for general operating budget. So any HR moments, there's any actual filings with land acquisition or special permits or anything like that. That is just typical municipal operations on a everyday annual basis. Now, typically when you do special projects, you have then a separate appropriation that has legal fees also incorporated into it. So that was my recommendation, was that we set aside, we actually segregate out the general operating that is standard for the annual, just everyday business. And then let us start accounting for how much is associated with individual projects. So that is where we teased out Housatonic Waterworks, and we went for, I believe, an additional appropriation from the reserve fund transfer back in December December 16th. So that is why this is actually in the additional outside of the general operating budget of the $16 million. It was put into a special article because it needs to have the conversation if this is what the voters actually want to move forward or not on. So that is why it's in there.
Liz, if that money is not brought forward, where are we with that?
So if, then I would have to have either a reserve fund, we'd have to have a discussion on, with the select board, and then I would be guided
Phil, I
on
see you.
that decision, yeah.
Garfield and Phil.
You might have asked a question I was gonna ask, what happens if that $75,000 isn't appropriated?
Right, so it would stay, it would remain in free cash. And then if the actual filing moves forward that requires a legal cost associated with it, we would have a discussion. And I would get guidance on the select board for, and I would make a recommendation whether or not I have to, use, get a reserve fund transfer or not. So and we would look at also our regular costs associated, because legal fees, it could vary one year versus another in the general operating budget. It's not, one year it might be, we may return some at the end of the year. We may not use all of it. So, and then there's some years that we use more. So,
Or so do our town vote.
Not reserve fund transfers.
but no, that requires a finance committee vote.
That's,
Yeah.
the capital, I guess you need the town, but the reserve.
But reserve fund, it's not stabilization fund. It's a line item in your.
Yes.
I don't know if I got my answer.
Okay, Garfield, you're not done, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to, as I said, wanted to know what would happen if it didn't pay, we didn't do it, and it would just sit there, and if a need for legal fees came up, we'd have to have another meeting.
Well.
I just think we're meeting, I guess it's like, really, another meeting? I just think it's.
Not meeting. It would not.
No, I understand, but I just think we're just meeting to death over everything, and something's gotta stop.
Sorry for that. Well, that is the process of your government. That's how your government is shaped by the charter. So I do not have the authority to authorize or appropriate money without the elected board guiding and making that decision so we can have a transparent process. So, but if you want to give me that, but I'm not the only town manager you're gonna have. So let me also put that, that's the reason why you have those processes in place in the charter and the bylaws. So, so that being said, yes, we would have to have another discussion. Okay?
Right, so I've been in the shoes of the finance committee, so you're being asked to make a decision about Housatonic Waterworks and you don't have the same information the select board has about what we're doing. But I want to clarify, this was in the filing, okay, these legal fees are, as I understand it, they're not being used to pressure, coerce, litigate against Housatonic Waterworks demanding that they deliver more clean water. This relates to, we have a dispute over the purchase price for the company based upon the option that the town has in its 125-year-old town charter to buy Housatonic Waterworks at a price to be determined. So it's a price dispute. So that's what this is about. It's not about, trying to force and coax and compel the company to provide better water to its customers. That actually is going on separately by the state, and that's great news. Okay, relating to the manganese, the filtration system, and the state's trying to really push back against them delaying that process. So hopefully that helps a bit.
And what's we have, what's the reserve fund balance?
I believe it's 100 or 150.
Back by 27.
Here's one.
150.
Yeah,
I believe
150
it's
is what I remember.
150.
The problem with you is planning to use something on the reserve fund. First of all, it's emergency.
Yeah.
It can be argued, but you can do it. But you don't know from now till June 30th, where that money may be needed.
Yeah.
Whether it's legal fees or something else. To me, only my opinion, that if you can plan to use that money and you probably will use it, you're smarter to do it in this way then coming to the finance committee and running out of money, which then would force a town meeting to use free cash, et cetera, for something. Cause you just don't know what that's there for emergencies. Madonna, did you want?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go line by line, because Jeff isn't going to be here, we'll just.
Actually, one more question.
Go ahead,
You
you go ahead.
Sorry, guys. I just want to do my due diligence here. Parking enforcement officer, how much do we, bring in with parking? In terms of,
It was
26,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last calendar year was 26 and change. Of the 26, we took in 23, we spent about 3,000 for the actual vendor who does the ticketing.
Right, so we're enforcement officers to 20,000, but we'll only take 26.
Yeah, but the point of it is not,
Right, right.
it's not a money-making operation. The
It's all
point of it
about-
is to allow people to shop downtown. It's mostly downtown, not all downtown,
Yeah.
et cetera. You're right, it's not a money-making operation. We're not gonna balance the budget on that.
There are benefits for a parking enforcement officer, not just for our compliance. So parking officers also do handicap violations and fire lane violations, which are very important for public safety and immediate access. So if somebody doesn't have their placard, or that they are parking it, over the crosshatch and preventing somebody that needs access, and then also preventing immediate access for the fire trucks to, so there are benefits for that, so it is more of, again, a public benefit to having enforcement. Now, that being said, the parking enforcement officer is not the only one who has the authority to issue tickets, but this relieves this option for an actual dedicated officer strictly for ticket violations and citations and compliance, relieves that from the actual officers who should be focused on other and more higher level enforcement. That is what they're trained to do. So parking enforcement is a much different level of enforcement. And so, yeah, that's really what the parking enforcement is.
More or less, it's revenue neutral. We're looking at the benefits of having this officer.
At this time, it is revenue neutral.
Okay.
Okay, all right, we're gonna go for it. Okay. I make a motion to appropriate the sum of $61,285 of free cash for lifeguards.
I second.
Can I just make a recommendation that you make a recommendation to the town meeting floor that to approve this? You're not appropriating anything.
Oh, I'm not.
You're
All right,
voting to
well, then
recommend.
I won't.
You're voting to recommend.
I'm just making just a suggestion,
All right, so what's the suggestion that I recommend at town?
a positive vote on the town meeting
Okay.
floor.
I make a motion that we have a positive
Vote.
a vote at town meeting to appropriate $61,285 for lifeguards. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh, well, let's do a roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay, so that's unanimous. I make a motion to go
You
to
could say to make a positive
make
recommendation.
a positive recommendation for $32,679 for a skate park monitor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there votes? Michelle?
Yes.
Rayo?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
9 yes, 4-0. Okay. I make a motion to, what's that?
Positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation
Hear that?
to appropriate, I know I should just put it down here. To appropriate $75,000 for Housatonic Water Works legal fees. Is there a second?
Second.
Vote, Michelle?
Yes.
Rayo?
Yes.
Jeff?
No.
I'm a no. 2-2.
So that means it's a negative recommendation.
Negative recommendation. Well, to the next one, I make a motion, to,
Make a positive recommendation.
make a positive recommendation to appropriate, let's see, $100,000 for the co-responder program. Is there a second?
Second.
And a vote, Michelle?
Yes.
Rayo?
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion passes. I make a motion to have a positive recommendation at town meeting to appropriate $20,000 for a parking enforcement officer. Is there a second?
Second,
A vote? Michelle?
yes.
Freya?
Yes.
Jeff?
No.
Tough one. I'm gonna say yes. 3-1. I made a motion to have a positive recommendation at town meeting for $30,000 for the VFW property lease. Do I have a second?
Second,
Vote. Michelle?
yes.
Rayo?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I'm a yes, 4-0. I make a motion to have a positive recommendation at town meeting to have 23,000 for the American Legion property lease. Is there a second?
Second,
And a vote. Michelle?
yes.
Rayo?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Our turn. Go ahead.
All right. Why don't we follow suit and do the same way?
Yeah, we will.
I make a motion for lifeguards, for positive recommendation for lifeguards for 61,285.
You don't need to do a roll call, but we will since I did. Bill?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Garfield?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
And this is for, the 61Gs is for, part of this for next year as well?
It's the same fiscal year. It's-
Same, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
same fiscal year. Yes. Is that a yes or?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna vote no.
And I'm gonna vote yes.
I'm sorry, who moved the second?
Second one's for Garfield.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Make a motion for the skate park monitor, 32,679.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call. Anybody have any discussion? Sorry.
I guess I want to clarify lifeguard situation. It's only for Lake Mansfield. There's a lot of other swimming holes. We're in a budget time, so that was my none. Skate park, yeah, so.
Okay. Bill?
We're on skate park.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Garfield?
No.
No.
And I'm a yes, so it's 3-2. Housatonic waterwork legal fees.
I make a positive motion to approve the 75, I make a positive recommendation to approve the Housatonic Waterworks legal fees. For
Second.
75.
I have a motion and a second by Garfield. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to vote no on this, but I would love to have this money. I view this as putting this on pause. We'll find other money somehow, some way, and we'll fire this back up, but I'm gonna vote no.
Okay, Ben?
I'm gonna vote yes, because I don't think firing it back up was a really probable outcome. So, yes.
Garfield?
Yes.
I'm gonna vote yes, and I'm gonna invite everybody that voted no to my house to shower this summer and to drink some water out of my tap. And that you too, Peter. All right, because that makes me furious that you vote no.
Yes, you can come and have beer instead.
Yeah.
Whatever you like.
So I'm voting yes, if anybody cares. Let's go to the next one. Get grouchy after 2 hours. Let's go.
After
Okay.
2 hours?
I wanna see.
I make a positive recommendation for the co-responder program for 100,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Phil?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Garfield?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Okay, parking enforcement.
Make a positive recommendation for town floor for parking enforcement officer for 20,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, Phil?
Yeah,
No.
oh,
I'm sorry,
No.
Ben?
Yes.
Garfield?
no, and may I say something?
Of course.
I know at one point it seemed like we disbanded it, but we had officers on bikes. And if you're
different role. This is nothing to do with parking enforcement. They could have parked.
Well, that's what I was going to say, that I think, I don't see why we can't use them for that, if we still have it. But I haven't seen an officer on a bike in years, but I think that would be, personally, I think that's a fine way to take care of that. So I did say no.
Okay, Eric,
Yes.
and I'm yes, so I believe that was 3-2.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I make a positive recommendation for the VFW property lease for 30,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Phil.
Yes.
Ben.
Yes.
Garfield.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes.
I make a positive recommendation for the American League property lease for 23,000.
I have a second.
You have a second, and so I just asked a question, did the SB pass the parking enforcement officer, and was it 3-2?
3-2 passed, yes.
Thank you. Ooh.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Phil.
Yes.
Ben.
Yes.
Garfield.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, that's unanimous. Go on to number 2.
Before you go on to number 2, could I just ask, was the vote 3-2 for the lifeguards and 3-2 for the skateboard?
Lifeguards were 4-1, skate park was 3-2.
Thank you. Voted no on the lifeguards.
I did.
So, okay.
Thank you. With a C. That's it. That's it. You better elongate it.
Article 2.
So that's correct.
When I would make a suggest, like.
Yeah, you can make a motion. Anywhere between 0 and
$1 million.
$1 billion.
What's the proper language? I would like to make a motion to reduce the amount that we are suggesting to be appropriate for this to $500,000.
Yeah, is there a second? There's a motion on the floor.
Well, I'll second it.
Is there discussion?
Yes, I would like to propose an amendment. To further reduce it to $200,000, which is about 25% more or less of the current amount that is owed to the vendor. And if we end up having a 25% shot at it, that's 25% of where we are right now. Doesn't mean we couldn't change it in the future, but that's the number I propose setting aside at this time.
So that would be, we would need a second to the amendment.
No, you need to actually vote on the first vote first of 500. And then it needs to be turned down in order to then consider 200.
No.
Okay, right,
No, he's making an amendment to the motion.
but he made a second to it.
Yes, that's okay. So they would then vote on the amended motion. And if that passes, they would vote on the 200,000. If it fails, they would vote on the 500,000.
So let,
And let the audience know Peter most agrees with me. It doesn't happen often.
let me just say that, if you think 200 is a wise number, 7 years from now with 12% interest rate, it's gonna be 400,000 because they could, they could take, these things could take a while. I'm just saying that I got the 500, not because like I thought of a random number. So let me tell you the logic behind how I came up with 500.
Keep it under 20 minutes.
About 20 seconds.
Tell you guys that I tended, my colleagues know me as being long-winded, and I forgot that another professor.
Right, I don't take this first.
We don't
You
really
have to
care.
state the obvious.
No, we started with 1.4. And if all, in free cash, more or less, 1.4 million, right? And then let's say that all the citizen petitions as assumption, all of it passes, then we're down to 900,000. We want to be at around 800,000 in order to have like a healthy cash balance. And I'm like, okay, so what is so that's 800, so like half 800 would be like 400,000. So if we want to keep 400,000 like a general spend, spendable free cash versus another part in a reserve free cash, then that would be like 500,000. So that's how I came up with my, seemingly random 500,000, which is also half the initial million. So I thought this was a nice round number.
Any other discussion? You wanna stick with your 200?
Well, there's a motion and a second, so you don't have to vote
Okay,
on the 200,000.
all right, we're gonna vote on the 200,000, Michelle,
200, I'm sorry, I thought it
Yeah,
was
the two, it
200?
was 200.
200 as well.
200, thank you.
which was amended.
Would you
Was
be
the-
much happier if it were 250?
This is not my decision, so.
Right,
Well,
yeah, right, yeah.
Michelle, no. Ray,
No.
Yes.
I'm gonna vote no.
So you're back to the original motion.
So we're gonna go back to the original motion.
Yeah.
But perhaps in the discussion, perhaps we want to amend your motion with the 250.
No, I think 250 or 5 will make much, like, at this point, I feel like we should just do either 5 or just stick with the original.
Yeah.
Can we vote? All right. Okay, the recommendation is, the motion is for 500,000 to be set aside, correct? Yes. And free cash for appropriation of the,
Done?
the free cash for article number 2.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that
Is that okay? Okay, so that's your motion, and
There's been a second.
there's been a second, and vote,
With the discussion,
discussion.
I think it's wise to set aside something. That, I kind of took us to this whole route by, identifying that we could certainly borrow final judgment, and that is true. And, we could certainly go that route, but it doesn't hurt to set aside something, especially if it's in the free cash account, it's not gonna hurt against the bond rate, so let us set aside something. But not, so we'll still have 400 in case of emergencies. To take us to the next fiscal year, so I do think 500 is it's like the baby bear, it's not papa or mama, it's like a good, middle number.
You've already made that point.
Jeff,
so
go ahead.
Beat it up.
My feeling is that this is a very big article and request. Neither of our boards are going anywhere. We are going to have to meet again on this in the future. So my recommendation is not to set aside anything significant tonight. I think we need to let this process play out. We're not negotiating a settlement tonight. We're not being told by a judge what's going to happen tonight. I think we should let this process play out and not set aside any significant.
So are you making an amendment to the motion?
I was participating.
Oh, just make the motion.
Just vote okay.
Okay.
so there's a motion on the floor, correct?
Yeah.
And there's a second. Are we ready to
Oh,
vote?
why not, Michelle?
I'm ready.
You're ready, Michelle?
I'm ready. A resounding no.
Okay, no. Rayo?
Yes,
Yeah.
my own motion.
No.
And I'm a no, so the motion fails. Okay, so,
So the best motion you guys could make is to make a negative recommendation, because that's where you're leaning. And that
well,
will
no, I
save us from being here another trip.
I would say that I do think either we say, keep everything in free cash and let it ride, or we come up with a number that's not 500,000.
I say keep it in free cash and let it ride. We
And I agree.
we will be here if
Okay.
another vote is needed.
Okay, so,
We gotta make a motion, please.
is there a motion?
So it's,
Can
you make that motion.
Say your motion again.
Yeah, you just said it.
So let it fly.
Well, you need to let it vote, like, we just need to vote on it.
Just make a negative
recommendation.
motion.
Just make a negative recommendation.
Motion for the finance committee to make a negative recommendation on the request to appropriate $1 million from free cash.
Is there a second?
We're voting on a negative recommendation.
Yeah,
That's
Not
right.
recommend.
Yeah, it's a
Not
number.
recommended.
Yeah.
The $1 million.
That's right.
Doesn't matter, you're just not recommending it,
You're
yes.
not recommending it,
Yes,
Michelle.
it's 1 million. It's on.
Did you get that from me tonight? I second that motion.
Okay, and the vote. Oh, is there other discussion? Okay, I know you gotta do it, right? Okay.
So yes, it's not recommended.
That's correct.
We are not recommending that we do it.
Michelle, vote your vote.
A really resounding no.
Right, no.
I'm just, we're going around in a circle on this. I don't want it. I'm voting no. You're saying your motion is.
It's a negative
not-
motion, so you would vote
So,
yes.
yes.
Should we amend it should we amend it to make it look like it does on the paper?
We'll take care of that, just.
Yeah.
You okay with that? All right.
Yeah, don't let us mess things around, we'll.
I don't want.
It's too late
so-
for that.
I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it, so I go yes.
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 Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
make a motion to
Co-responder.
make a,
Okay, let's get a vote here.
all right, I'm gonna make a motion for Article 2 to do a positive vote for 900,000 being set aside for Article 2.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I would, my discussion is I would leave it at $1 million. What's $100,000 gonna do in the real economy? So I would leave it at $1 million, not $100,000 it's not used. I
Let's
think.
go.
it should be-
Roll call, Phil.
900,000?
Yeah, can we get your thinking on 900?
Yeah, 900,000 is, we're just bringing it under the $1 million threshold. I think it's, it covers what this report says is what's due without interest. And, I think it's good starting point. 100,000, if it comes down to whatever, I think it sits better with under the million, keeps a little bit more there. That's why I was going.
Phil.
So a question is really relates to the concept of 500 and that. So if we authorized 500 or set aside 500 and we lost $1 million. We'd have to then go back to the town meeting to get authorized up to $1 million. Do I have that right?
Whatever, I can answer this is easy. You can only spend what the town meeting authorizes,
Right, so-
unless it's a judgment by the court.
Okay, well, what I'm wrestling with is just there's not a huge difference in my mind between authorizing 900 versus authorizing 500 and also making future decisions to make sure we have the additional money in free cash.
Mhm.
So, for right or for wrong, that's what I'm wrestling with. And do we have to fully tie up the 900 as opposed to leaving ourselves a little more wiggle room in the 500 scenario?
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did not the finance say that, but we have not stated that, so why are we talking about 500,000?
The finance committee votes completely separate.
Right, I understand that. Okay,
So what they recommend and what we recommend can be two different things.
correct, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, but he's
So,
suggesting what they,
no, he's suggesting that we reduce it to 500,000 instead of 900 that Eric's wanted.
okay, but did they not say that the finance company wanted to be 500,000?
No, they did, they voted to deny it completely.
Can I make an amendment for us
Yes.
to give it a turn?
Yeah, cool.
I'll make an amendment to adjust the amount to $500,000.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. It's amendment to the 900. Roll call vote. Phil?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Garfield?
No.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yes. Read it to. Either way, using your logic, just so I can say, we're gonna have to go back for more, whether it's 900 or 500. If we lose the judgment, we're gonna have to, so, and that leaves a little bit more money in free cash that's unencumbered, so that makes sense to me.
not to me.
Votes against it.
Yeah, so we're still got one more vote to go. Let me go on this vote. So we now have the original motion, which should be the same votes, I hope, which is the $500,000. So Phil,
We're redoing it?
well, you have to,
That was just the
that
amendment.
was the amendment, and now you're voting on the main motion,
Main motion?
which is what you want. Say yes, Phil.
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Garfield,
No,
No.
and yes. Okay, it was 3-2, and we just did a replay for you. So Eric and Garfield voted no.
500,000.
Correct, and we voted twice. One was the amendment, one was the main motion.
Okay, we're heading to Article 3.
Correct.
Getting there. Okay, so.
So before you actually vote on this, I do just wanna make a correction, Rayo. I was mistaken. It is the general stabilization. It is not capital, the way that the article is written. Okay, thank you.
Article 3, and it's a motion to, what is it, a positive recommendation, for $200,000 for legal services, consultant services and legal services. Is that enough? Yeah. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, so this would be would we be going to court? Using this to go to court?
Correct.
Yeah, all right. I'll,
Well,
yes. Did you second?
Yeah,
Could I propose an amendment to reduce it to $100,000?
Is there a second to his amendment? I'll second it. All right. So, all right, so the motion is to have $100,000 to be set aside for consultant services and legal services for our issues. And is there discussion? Yes.
I guess, I think we should keep that the original 200 just because it was an estimate that, Liz came up with, council's, suggestion, and we do need to fight this. We need to fight this out. It might take, and if we're gonna fight it. Like, if we're gonna settle, be very quick. We don't need that much money. We can settle
Get you to the
on.
fire there, right?
Right, so fight it out. We need to pay for lawyers to fight it out.
And lawyers are
They're
expensive.
expensive.
Yes,
And we
they're
don't have-
very
And
expensive.
it takes a 2/3 vote to do stabilization, so we don't wanna keep coming back to town meeting, ask for a 2/3 vote to add additional, and then what if it doesn't get
Okay,
a?
I withdraw my amendment.
Okay, so we're back to the original motion for $200,000 for consultant services and legal expenses, and we have a second?
There you go.
We have Michelle, right?
Yeah, you had a second.
Ready to vote?
Did I second?
No, Rayo did.
Oh, Ray, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Ray seconded it. And a vote? This is for the 200,000.
Yeah, I know,
Okay.
I know, I just wanted to make sure everybody was done. And to fight this, yes.
So you're a yes.
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 Or no.
I make a motion to send a positive recommendation for Article 3 for the 200,000.
Do I have a second?
Right, no, second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Phil.
Yes.
Ben.
Yes.
Garfield.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, it's unanimous. Article 4.
Article 4, is there, I have a motion to make a positive recommendation, for the appropriation for Southern Berkshire Ambulance Squad at town meeting, for the amount $86,899.
I second.
And the second, is there discussion? Yes. Okay, I'm sure.
This is a real typical one for the reason I stated earlier. It's for asking, we've already voted the money, you're asking up and above. But at the same time, in the mail, I received a donation mailing for the ambulance squad. And the thing is, for me personally, when I do donations, it's probably going to be more than what I would be paying in taxes if we voted this. And I think rather than being ordered to do it, I'd rather do that. So I'm going to vote no on this.
My thinking on this is that it seems like the whole process in which we got to the reduced amount was a less ideal process. It's kind of, I wasn't there in this meeting, I wasn't part of this board at that point, but I was like listening in on the Zoom conference when that was happening. And it's normally, I think there should have been a better negotiation process that got some dollar amount that both sides are happy with. I'm glad that is happening right now, that there's a negotiation happening for a 3-year contract, and that is a more ideal process. And moving forward, I'm very happy where it's going. But it was not an ideal process that led to this dollar amount, and I cannot anticipate the implication of not allocating this, and we are dealing with a vital service, so I'm inclined to vote yes. I recommend yes for the citizens petition.
Is there any other discussion? So I can take a permanent vote, Michelle.
Would rather than no.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Okay, let's wait till Ben comes back.
3-1.
3-1.
Thank you. It's hard to hear.
Okay,
Do you want to make a motion?
I'm gonna make a motion for a negative recommendation for Article 4 citizens petition.
Do I have a second? Do I have another motion?
I make the motion.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we,
Did you second?
I tried to second.
Oh, did you? I thought you
Might have been a little
make
late
another
there,
motion.
yeah.
That's fine. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, so two things. If we do a running tally of where we're at in terms of where we're gonna end up with our sort of free cash reserves, we're significantly below the bottom row of that schedule. Okay. So the ambulance issue was a tough one before and it's a tough one now, but at the end of the day, I voted to basically reduce our assessed amount, or the amount not the assessed amount, the amount that we appropriate from roughly 414,000 to 327. We did that vote back in February. And here we are, and the only thing that's changed is our finances are much worse.
Right.
So I don't know how I could logically basically support putting this money back in at this point. I don't know how I get to that point.
So my point of view, I was the only one who voted no on that.
Right.
On reducing it. I was in favor of 414. What's gotten better, not our finances, is that there's a contract almost agreed upon. And that's really what we wanted. Now, we haven't seen it yet because it's still in negotiations. I think what really held it up on the town meeting floor was the lack of a contract, was what reduced it. And if there was a contract, it gives us some vision for the next 2 years, which I think is really important.
So there's I know the contract has a blank for what our
That's
number is
Yeah.
for this year, but does it include an agreed upon escalation percentage for the 3-year period?
At this time, the last draft had a 3%, 7%, 7.5%, which is what the board actually agreed on.
For that 1 year,
Right, so we
Yeah.
based it upon that percentage increase.
because they were asking for a 30-something% thing.
It's
so
much
we
better than
knocked it
Which
in.
is similar to the school.
Yeah.
Right.
So theoretically, we'll be able to lock in the ambulance number
That's the whole point of the contract.
for 28.
Yeah.
Right.
And have to cut 5% out of the budget elsewhere to make up for it.
repeat what you had said.
I'm saying well, I was saying that if that contract is agreed upon and completed, then we'll know exactly what number will be in the fiscal 28 budget for the Southern Berkshire Ambulance assessment. As opposed to the previous years where we wouldn't know the number and it would come in
That's correct.
higher than certainly we had hoped, right?
And Eric, your point is correct. The problem is Proposition 2.5, and this is an argument that, I'm not in the majority in town, obviously, but Proposition 2.5 is outdated. Because 2.5% of anything is not enough. Inflation's over 2.5%. Insurance was only 8% this year increase, only, I use air quotes. So I think if you use a benchmark at 2.5%, we're gonna have a lot of really tough discussions. So we have a motion and a second.
Okay, so based on this discussion, I've convinced myself that I have a reason to change my vote from February, and I'll support a recommendation.
So the motion was,
So I'm voting against Eric's motion.
okay,
Right,
so you're voting no,
right, voting no.
then,
I'll also vote no.
Garfield?
And we're voting against Harrison? No.
Eric's motion was to make a negative recommendation to town meeting on this.
Right.
So.
I
what was your-
vote
no, I
yes,
didn't
because
hear
nothing
Garfield's.
changed.
I said no.
No, okay,
Right.
and Eric's yes, and I'm no.
Okay.
So is there another motion?
That's it.
No to a no.
That's it.
Vote against board.
Well, not really. I'd rather we make a definitive yes to this. That was just a no to that.
Well, I'll make a positive recommendation that we appropriate the $86,899.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call. Phil?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Garfield.
Yes.
No.
Aye, so it passes 4-1.
Well, we better not have a heart attack.
Okay,
That was determined months ago, yeah. Yeah.
okay, citizen speak time.
The bee bus.
I always hear those down, so. It's better than a 1-1.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Jim Bailey, Housatonic.
Please.
I think more than ever right now is a call to end the CPA. That money that we collected this year for CPA funding could have gone to pay for everything essential, not wants, needs. I request that there be some serious consideration given to ending the CPA, please. Secondly, I want to talk about what happened last June 23rd at the select board meeting in particular, when I had asked a simple question. That question was, who was paying for the excavation of the foundations at Prosperity Way? The answer to me was Habitat for Humanity. That was false, correct? That was a false statement. That was a lie told to me by the then town planner / town manager in public. So for everybody defending this gentleman, I took the time, Bill, to review every single email. And in those emails, I learned the deception that was going on. I presented it to many of you in person. This is extremely frustrating for me because I've given you warning. I told you what was happening. I told you what was going on, and all I wanted was transparency. And to this day, all I want is transparency. That's all I want. I expect the same respect that I give out. And it was a simple question, and I was lied to. I presented that to media people. I presented that to many board members. I presented it to every friend I know. And everybody saw the same thing I saw. And now a pattern exists. A pattern of poor procurement practices that I brought forth over a year ago, or almost a year ago. All I ask is that there be transparency, full transparency going forward. Our taxpayers deserve that. Our citizens deserve that. I deserve that. Thank you.
Amanda, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to, 139 Seacon Crossroad. I just wanted to clarify that should the town choose to do away with CPA, that those funds do not become available for the operating budget, and it would require a Prop 2.5 override to increase the levy by the same amount. So just adding that to the mix.
Thank you. Peter?
East Mountain Road, Peter Most. One, I wanted to respond to your question earlier, Stephen, which was why was Housatonic Water Works on if I didn't support it? And the folks that were behind what is Article 1, what used to be Article 7, felt that we need to be faithful to the old town warrant, and that's why that was there. We didn't have to agree with it. And also, I wish everybody who was in the town could have watched your deliberations today. It's been over 3 hours. You guys have to make hard choices, and I want you to know I appreciate what you've done here, and I'd like to think everyone who observed this meeting appreciates what you've done here, so thank you.
That's great.
Can you buy pizza next?
Write that down.
Okay, not seeing anyone else. Board time, anybody from the finance committee, anyone from the select board?
Radio.
So you gotta get to know me. When I don't go to individual people and I only look at you for 1 second, that means no, you're not making a second. Go ahead, Ray.
I just want to second David's final comment. And that's why my question started out asking Liz, what are we gonna do moving forward? What kind of change are we gonna make? Because that is something we make sure that this does not happen again. The taxpayer is not on the hook again. So I look forward to working with Liz on the set of ones that we could do such that we're not faced with a situation.
And my statement to that is, let's just hope that that project doesn't come back and bite us. I won't say the word I'm thinking of because it's not appropriate.
Thank you. Anyone from the select board?
I just will make the comment that being on the new school building committee, there is a group on the finance budget thing that has a select few members, and we have to look over each invoice and change order going down the road. And I know we were kind of touched upon this yesterday at last night's meeting, and I know Liz has spoken to it, and I think that those sort of corrections would go a long way, whether it's a couple of members of the select board and people at large and people in the town. That extra layer of oversight obviously is well needed. So, and I know Liz has already been discussing it, and I appreciate everything that Liz Hartsgrove has done in her short tenure here. So I greatly appreciate it.
Go ahead, Phil.
Very briefly, I agree with what Eric said, and I appreciate the work in the report. I just want to say again, it is a very alarming report, and it's very disturbing what went on. And I don't want to allocate blame into any individual, but it really was a failure of our town government and our work to protect and preserve and spend wisely the town's taxpayer money. So it's very disturbing, and no matter what. So whatever gets said tonight, however it's interpreted, I want to make sure I would like to make sure the taxpayers fully understand how disturbing and disappointing that report is and how we have to do better. And I'm sure that Liz will guide us on how to do it.
Okay, any media time?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I feel I didn't see your hand.
First, I just want to thank actually Liz for recognizing some people that work here. I think that's a great thing to do. I always think if someone's doing a good job, they need to hear it. And gosh, I forgot what else I was going to say. Yeah. Oh, I just think that we need to make sure that we keep our heads level, open-minded, and think about the taxpayers, because I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't agree with 2.5 and wouldn't have voted for it at any time at all, because we pay enough taxes in this town, and I don't think we need to. I know some things suffer, but that's kind of how things are. That's kind of like how life is sometimes. So, with that said, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Yeah, well, now I just feel left out if I don't say something. It's welcome. I want to thank everybody for having a conversation. This is a fantastic conversation about some hard things. Thank you to everyone who sat in this hot room this entire conversation. And I would also just like to second Amanda's description of the special town meeting whose town of Waterworks. So I do think it was a more complicated narrative than might have been presented tonight.
Thank you. Any media time? Seeing none, by unanimous consent, we are adjourned.